Shorter week with the coming off of the holiday weekend. Baseball set for noon Friday here in town. The NCAA regional and a busy night last night. Apparently, while most of us were sleeping, Damian Lillard was kind of rewriting the NBA playoff record book in a loss, though, despite 12 threes, a couple of those extending the game last night in the NBA playoffs for Portland, but not enough against the Denver Nuggets. Hitting a three to send a game to overtime is pretty good. Hitting a three to send a game to double overtime is pretty good. Doing it in the same game where you hit an NBA playoff record 12 threes, pretty impressive stuff. That's why you might be seeing the social media scuttlebutt of Damian Lillard. For our purposes, Seventh Woods transferring out of Frank Martin and the Gamecock basketball program, the local basketball news. And in that Nuggets Trailblazers game, by the way, former Gamecock P.J. Dozier did not play for Denver, still recovering, I believe, from an adductor strain, which I'm not sure what exactly is, Bill, but I'm guessing it doesn't sound very fun at all from P.J. Dozier's standpoint. Some football news yesterday, plenty of action from a recruiting standpoint. Bill, what stands out to you most as we get going this morning?
I don't know if the Hurricanes are going to be able to score against the Lightning. That's what stands out the most. That was my interest last night. It was a great crowd at PNC Arena up in Raleigh, and the Tampa Bay Lightning are really, really good, especially getting what's the guy that they got back there? Patrick. I really last night started to learn more about these names, none of which, aside from just a few, I can pronounce.
Yeah, they got back Nikita Kucherov. Steven Stamkos was banged up for a little of the season, but that 1-2 punch is quite potent for Tampa. Also, Vasilevsky for the Lightning is possibly the best goalie in the world. It's probably the best goalie in the world.
That's what you were talking about, right, Bill?
Well, they didn't get him back. Kucherov is the guy that they came back, and I think he's already setting playoff records.
Yeah.
Coming back, I think Patrick pointed out the slick move there about a week ago that Tampa used to get around some cap space room and hide him on the IR or the
whatever the hockey version of the injured reserve is.
Yeah, so they did that. That was what I was into last night. Didn't stay up much for the NBA playoffs. I really have just kind of struggled getting into those. I looked this morning and saw the Lillard thing last night with 55. I've been a fan of Damian Lillard for a while now, especially since, was it 2 years ago, Tim? He hit that shot. I believe it was against Oklahoma City. But it was like a three-pointer from almost half court with the clock running down in a playoff game. And I think Lillard, unfortunately for us, plays in Portland, and so half of these games, the majority of his games are 10 p.m. games, and I don't make it to watch it. But the Denver series has been good. Phoenix last night blows out the Lakers and gets within one win of eliminating the Lakers. And if you haven't seen, because again, West Coast team, or you don't follow the NBA, Phoenix apparently used all those draft picks to actually become a pretty decent franchise right now, or organization. They probably won't be able to keep it together, but for whatever reason, just the NBA playoffs, I think flipping over and seeing 15,000 last night at PNC Arena, watching 15 or 16,000 on Monday night up in Boston for hockey. The environment at those things last night, it's fun to watch. It kind of makes me, it keeps you a little bit more entertained, even in what I kind of deemed as a boring game between the Lightning and the Hurricanes, because the Hurricanes just, they can't score. I mean, they can't get the wall, get the puck around.
They couldn't score last night.
Well, they've given up now. They scored one goal in this series. It was a power play goal, and against the Lightning, they were rattling off the stats last night. So credit the team on. I think I was watching MSNBC was where this game was being broadcast, but it's not happening against the Lightning, and that's kind of the problem, because you aren't playing anybody else if you can't score against the Lightning.
Vasilevsky with 33 saves or something like that. So they had opportunities, but I'm with you. It was not easy to watch there, except for be 16,000 plus. I'm reading the box score right now. It was 16,299 out of 18,000 capacity up in Raleigh. Just seeing more and more crowds fill in arenas definitely is fun to see. What did you make of the basketball news from the Gamecock standpoint? That Seventh Woods is going to transfer out of the Gamecock program. The Hammond Star started his career at the University of North Carolina, kind of burst on the scene as an 8th grader, I think, with the highlight videos, the dunks all over the place. Really cracked the North Carolina rotation, did pick up a national championship ring, comes back to South Carolina, has to sit out a year before getting on the court, averaged about 5 points last year in a difficult year for Frank Martin's team.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride for Seventh Woods. I think that is an underestimate, maybe an understatement to say that he was a big time recruit early on in his high school career. Was a top 10 kid, ended up being I think closer to 30 or 40. Goes to chooses North Carolina over South Carolina. I can't say that he's had a bad career because he's got a college degree and a national championship. And that's kind of what you try to do as a college player. You try to graduate. He's accomplished that. I was looking to see if this was a postgraduate degree he got here, or if he graduated from North Carolina, but it doesn't tell me that. It just says he graduated from South Carolina. So I don't know if he wrapped up his degree at the University of South Carolina, or if he was able to get one. Smart kid, good family, but I think on the court has been nowhere near the player that North Carolina hoped they were getting. Was nowhere near the player that South Carolina was hoping that they were going to get. You look at it in North Carolina, his freshman season played 40 games. Came out of the chute and was a reserve and helped them win that national championship. But after that, the next 2 years played in just 54 games. Only had one start each of his sophomore and junior seasons. Averaged just 8 minutes a game and 2 points at North Carolina. We'll see where he lands up, but I think he's accomplished a lot when you're able to go to college and win a national championship, and you're able to get a college degree. I think sometimes we kind of talked about that, Tim, yesterday in some way with camps reopening, with kids being able to go to football camps this summer. We pay more attention to the South Carolinas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Power 5 schools. But there's kids who have opportunities now to go to camps at Furman and Wofford and Citadel and so forth and so on, and just earn a scholarship to be able to go get free education and keep the dream alive. And, to an extent, we forget about those guys, but Seventh Woods has been able to live a great dream playing basketball at a high-profile, fun place in North Carolina, being able to play in front of his home state school for a year. And now we'll see what he ends up trying to wrap up his career with wherever he ends up.
Woods averaged about 5 points a game last year for the Gamecocks. Frank Martin always spoke glowingly of him, but never seemed to really hit his stride as a starting point guard for the Gamecocks. And then you saw Trey Hannibal not really work out either, and he's transferred out to Murray State. So you're going to see a vastly different Gamecock team in a lot of ways for Frank Martin and company in this 2021-2022 season. And Seventh Woods will not be part of the Gamecock basketball program moving forward. Speaking of transfers, plenty of action yesterday. I was going to say from the SEC perspective, but really from the Georgia perspective, with a couple of guys that we are familiar with. Eric Gilbert, talented tight end from LSU, going over there, and Darian Kendrick, the defensive back from Clemson, also choosing Georgia to transfer to. What do you make of that news, Bill?
Well, let's see how they do. I mean, that's look, first off, Eric Gilbert, I think that situation is very interesting, the way everything played out in Florida, and then saying that he needed to get some things kind of taken care of before transferring. I assume he'll get into to the University of Georgia and be good to go, and just give JT Daniels another big weapon there offensively. But let's see what happens on that. But a big pickup, obviously, is Eric Gilbert decides to return home to his home state, the University of Georgia. And then Darian Kendrick, a guy that's extremely talented, I don't think maybe lived up to the recruiting hype at Clemson, and then gets dismissed for off the field issues and goes to Georgia. Again, you got to stay out of trouble at Georgia, which Georgia players tend to not do, and you've got to be able to perform pretty well. So how much he impacts the Bulldogs, I think, is interesting just as well. But at least on the surface, Georgia picks up two extremely talented football players. We'll just see if one of them, I guess, can get into school or where he stands, and we'll see if the other one can go in Kendrick and make an impact in that secondary that lost a lot of guys last year.
If you're wondering, the SEC still has that rule that requires a waiver to transfer within the conference. They're going to vote on that, whether or not to change that rule coming up this Thursday. So that right now that does still apply for Eric Gilbert. He'll at least have to get a waiver. That was the weird one with, what was that Cade Mays situation, the transfer from Georgia over to Tennessee. And I think the Gamecocks kind of benefited from that. I don't think Mays played in that early season game for Tennessee. I think he might have played in the week after or a couple of weeks after. Do I have that right? Does that sound like?
Sounds right. Yeah. If we blocked out the end of the season, we definitely blocked out the beginning of the season and anything that happened. So, yeah, once the ball hit Cam Smith's foot and Tennessee jumped on it to secure the victory, it was pretty much blocking it out from there on out. But I believe you're right in that Cade Mays became eligible in week 2.
And from a social media standpoint, it seemed like Shane Beamer was pretty pumped up about another Atlanta area product. You mentioned that Eric Gilbert was a Georgia native from Marietta, a guy from Atlanta that is not going into college football next year, but the year after, stopping by in Columbia yesterday. Heaven Brown Schuler, his name. Bill, what do you make of that movement yesterday from the Gamecock perspective?
I mean, I think it's fun to see Shane Beamer be able to connect with recruits early on, but look, if they don't win football games, it's not going to matter. And I'm interested to see how this month plays out for him recruiting wise and what commitments they're able to get on board, and then how the season goes and what they're able to actually sign in December. So, look, Will Muschamp, whether he liked it or not, was good at getting high profile recruits onto campus. He landed some he didn't. Jordan Burch, Marshawn Lloyd, Ryan Helinski. If you want to look at out of the state kids, those were guys. I shouldn't say Jordan Burch in that group, but Ryan Helinski, Marshawn Lloyd, J.C. Horn, an out of state kid. These were big time guys that he was able to get onto campus and end up landing. There was some that he didn't land. There was some that he got on campus and wasn't able to land. So you got to be able. That's great that you can do that. That's awesome. And it certainly is a step in the right direction for Shane Beamer early on in his staff, but it's going to come down now to landing the kids and then holding on to them. We talked about it. Hamza Nasruddin was a guy that they landed that they weren't able to hold on to. There's another defensive back, Patrick, whose name all of a sudden completely slips my mind. Daniels, I think was his last name. That was a junior college prospect that ended up going to Georgia. Remember his name? DJ Daniels, thank you. And so, you've got to be able to land these guys, hold on to them, and then win football games to sell to a young man like this that hey, if you come here, you've got a chance to play for something big. So I think it's good. I don't think you read too much into it just yet because there's a long way to go with South Carolina right now and continuing to build this program.
Heaven Brown Schuler is 6'5", 260 pounds, a 5-star defensive tackle right now, as I read on Rivals.com. But for the class of 2024, so more maybe long-term building relationships. But it's an example of how yesterday was so significant for college football programs because it opened up recruiting for the first time in more than a year. You could have guys on campus. There was a photo shoot involved, I think, with this particular prospect and others for sure. Busy month on tap.
Did you guys see when you talk about that? Did you see what Florida State did?
I don't think I did. What did Florida State do?
They had a midnight madness.
Yeah. Patrick, you mentioned that Norville was on social media, I think, at midnight, right?
Yeah, so just a tweet of him opening up the front doors of the facility and yelling something, and I saw a bunch of people walking in, hugging, and
Sam McCall, one of those guys Sam McCall, 5-star defensive back who will actually take a visit. You talk about guys that can make an impact. Sam Mccall is a guy that a lot of people thought would choose between South Carolina and Alabama. He's from the Lake Gibson area down there, is I think related in some way to Torian Gray, the defensive backs coach here at South Carolina. He had committed to Florida because of Torian Gray, but ended up committing to Florida State. And apparently a host of Florida State commitments, several of them, went to Tallahassee for midnight. And as soon as, and that's what you saw, Mike Norvell opening the door for the recruits as they were allowed back on campus at midnight, June 1st. So Florida State doing it that way. I think you saw a big production across the board yesterday. We talked on this program about what South Carolina kind of did, because it wasn't just football. It was all sports yesterday that were allowed to have prospects on campus. I saw 2 basketball prospects for South Carolina that came over. Local prospect Brandon Gardner from Gray Collegiate was one of those guys yesterday, and there was another one. I have to go back and get his name that ended up visiting as well, a shooting guard out of Charlotte Christian. I think it's Brandon, and then Brandon Gardner, 6'7" power forward in the class of 2023 from Gray Collegiate, who's considered a 4-star prospect. So it wasn't just football yesterday. It was recruiting across the board. That's why we talked a little bit about it yesterday. You saw the athletics department, both separate and as a whole, go out of their way to put the tweets out with the logo, the state logo with "Welcome Home" on it.
And all this while the baseball regional getting ready to crank up here in town, with Old Dominion coming to Columbia as the number 1 seed. The Gamecocks are the number 2 seed, taking on 3 seed Virginia Friday at noon. Interesting to hear Heath's show yesterday had on Old Dominion head coach Chris Linwood. Maybe the most interesting part of that was his scouting report of Virginia, a school he's very familiar with, that Old Dominion typically plays in the in-state school every single year. This year their matchup got rained out, but mentioned that Andrew Abbott, one of the best left-handers in the country, and Virginia, a pretty solid team. You can listen to the entire 12-minute or so interview from Heath Klein and the Old Dominion head coach from the baseball perspective, and Chris Linwood on our podcast page, 1075thegame.com, podcast tab at the top of the page there. We're going to talk to Gamecock pitching coach Skylar Meade coming up this morning at about 7:15 or so. Wonder if he'll let us in on his pitching plans for the rest of the week. It's about time to hear what South Carolina is going to do from a strategy perspective. No official announcement coming out of Carolina yet, so you might hear him kind of do that football thing where you have to, like Shane Beamer couldn't say that prospect's name, but every retweet, and then of course the actual prospect, Kevin Brown Schuler, retweeting it, and so it's really easy to figure out. Maybe we can play that little game. We'll see. We'll get Skylar on the video stream as well. Maybe we'll have him blink a couple of times if he's going to go one way or the other.
We are known as the show that holds people's feet to the fire when it comes to interviews. Really asks the hard questions.
We're all about breaking news.
Right.
Facebook, YouTube Live. Facebook Live's where Dale is asking what will happen if the regional games get rained out. They won't get rained out, Dale. They'll get postponed and they'll get played. I don't think it's supposed to be a complete washout this weekend, so they'll figure it out. They'll make the adjustments to the schedule if necessary. And fortunately, Founders Park pretty good at draining and holding some water there. The old tarp might get rolled out a few more times than normal or than they would like to this weekend, but they'll get them in one way or the other. That's just what you got to do. Sometimes you just have to push it back a day or two, but they got to play the games to move forward. This will not be like the NCAA women's golf regional. Well, they'll say, it's playable, but not championship conditions. And Old Dominion, you came in as the 1 seed. Well, you go ahead and move on. Go on and play TCU. That will not happen here. 803-404-6100 is the number into the program. You can call or text. Great to have Jen Jensen back in the Herndon Chevrolet studios producing, coming off her Indy 500 journey. We'll get some of those details as we move on this morning. Jen, you have almost recovered, fully recovered, somewhere in the middle?
Probably somewhere in the middle, yeah. It's kind of a whirlwind trip, so there's a lot of busy.
Looking forward to hearing the details as we roll on. And
Me too. Who is the winner there?
Because
Elio Castroneves.
Oh, okay. Not the wrong race then. Who is the winner in the other race?
So anyway, I just shut his mic off and I took care of that.
Well done.
Welcome back.
is not part of our NASCAR picks segment there, Bill, our local racing expert. More of the resident recruiting nerd. We'll continue to get details about all that movement from yesterday. Thanks for being a part of the show this morning. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
The game is on the air, online, on your phone.
From the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center, Shepherd's Glass.
Seeing 640 for you, Bill.
Just read that. All right.
Cheese breakfast sandwich plus small season breakfast potatoes for just $3. Choose wisely. Choose Wins. Limited time only. During breakfast hours only. Price and participation.
Let's put the tweet out there. I included the pictures of the fish from yesterday.
Some luck.
We did some fishing. I caught a really good sized bluegill brim, and one of the neighbors caught about a 11 or 12 pound catfish.
Oh,
Dang.
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah. It put up a fight. We all ended up on the dock trying to get it in the net. It was an entertaining about 10 minutes. We didn't know what he had caught because it took him forever to get it to the dock. One point we thought it might be a turtle. I mean, it had his rod like completely bent over. Caught it on some shrimp.
Gotta feed the good stuff.
That's right.
Do we need to cut a sleep number this morning?
Yeah. What is it? We need to do that today or tomorrow, I reckon.
Okay. Tomorrow's fine because it's not due till the 4th.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know if you got a bunch of stuff to do.
Do you move stuff around because do you take kids today or no?
Do what?
Do you take kids today?
Yep, this is the last time. Because next week, their final day of school is Wednesday. So I'm going to pick them up from school next Wednesday instead of Tuesday. And then Amanda's got school for several days. So instead of me getting them on Tuesday night, I'll get them on Wednesday. And then Thursday, they won't have school. So this will be the last time we do this.
Okay. I shifted accordingly. Okay.
Yeah.
We can do sleep number in the morning then. Tomorrow.
Yep, Chris. Appears the fish are coming into Lake Murray.
Morning, Anthony. Steven's pretty high on Gamecock football or basketball.
It's amazing that I was just doing a quick schedule real quick. Father's Day will be here in 18 days. Half of June will be gone.
Yep.
I always equate that to the College World Series and the U.S. Open.
Yep, that's U.S. Open. Men's basketball is going to win. Men's basketball will be 500. You watch. That's what they always are. Men's basketball will be 500. South Carolina football can't win 14 or 15 games. Keeping an eye on AMC this morning, seeing what's happening there. So much going on. Yeah, Tim, you were talking about what you equate Father's Day to. We were talking about it kind of Monday afternoon. Before you blink, it'll be 4th of July, and the summer will be, technically halfway over.
Yep.
Like, you're just flying by.
Patrick, everything all right over there?
Yeah.
Oh, just that voice already annoys me. The Peloton workout
Right.
voice.
Peloton.
Come on,
Way too
guys.
energetic.
I got to admit, those people, when it shows the Peloton commercial and it's the peppy trainers, you're going to slay this Peloton. I feel like throwing something at my TV.
It does motivate me, but it motivates me to just want to punch them. So,
Right.
yeah. All right, guys are up.
So it's got to be because last summer, from the sports perspective, could not have been slower, could not have been more unique. We saw anything but what we saw last night. Bill, I know you were paying attention, and we certainly don't get into the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs that much, but it certainly is notable watching the Carolina Hurricanes put 16,000 plus in the arena last night against Raleigh, even though they lost 2-1 and now down 2-0 in their series. I think that's got to be the explanation, right? You're talking on the video stream here during the break about how the summer is already speeding up from your perspective, or getting cranked up, and before you know it, it'll be halfway over. And then also you throw in Gamecock baseball hosting the regional this week. I feel like that's just where we are.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you kind of, I would say, as a South Carolina fan, you kind of say, okay, and depending on what other sport you like, okay, kind of a return to normal, getting the regional back in Columbia, Tim. I mean, I was surprised when you said it yesterday, 5 years since South Carolina's hosted a regional, and for a person who grew up both in college and then in this industry, that was a regular thing that us having the discussion of, all right, man, a regional in Columbia. Oh, that was kind of a given during the summer. That was part of the summer festivities, was heading down to Sarge Fry and, grabbing a box of chicken somewhere, doing a little bit of tailgating before the game. I'm trying to think of one of the last ones I went to at Sarge Fry. I think South Carolina might have been playing Central Florida in a regional. And just, I think we tailgated a little bit over there in front of the old field house, and then went into the stadium. And I think it was an absolute downpour, and had to run back to the car and sat in the car, kind of hanging out and eating chicken. Then the rains cleared. We went back out and watched the game. I think that was the last one. That seems close to one of the last ones I remember going to at Sarge Fry. But then you've had Founders Park, but you see the crowds coming back. We know that there's going to be 100% capacity allowed for football games this year. You're right. Father's Day is around the corner, and we've got the U.S. Open. So it is a lot of things seeming to just completely return to normal, which is nice to see, fun to have, and the hockey has been, again, a lot of fun. I think I mentioned On Air yesterday, looking at some Braves tickets. Braves host the Dodgers this weekend, and it's completely sold out at Truist Park. Thought about maybe trying to slip over Friday night or Saturday night and catch a game, but it's completely sold out on Friday night and Saturday night. So, a lot of things happening with people getting back to the ballpark, maybe getting back to normal a little bit. The lake was pretty packed this weekend with boaters and people excited just to be out. So, yeah, it's speeding up, I think, quickly.
Well, the weather, too, this time of year, we're used to scorching temperatures, and we got some of those, I guess, last week, but we've also gotten a bit of a cool down as well. So atypical from our standpoint there. I think atypical is the right way to put the year that was last year for Dan Mullen, Florida. You see the latest news, Bill? Mullen getting paid and then some. The details of his 3-year contract extension coming out yesterday, upping his salary. $1.5 million. They got a $1.5 million raise after last year's 84 season. $7.6 million is what he's going to make. 5th most in the country, 3rd most in the SEC. Only Nick Saban at 9.1. LSU's Ed Orgeron at 8.7 will make more per year next season than Florida coach Dan Mullen. What do you make of what Florida did, showing some confidence in a guy that just got an NCAA probation slapped on the Gators, a 1-year show cause order for recruiting violations there, and we saw several different instances, most notably, I think, the Missouri deal, and then showing up at a press conference as Darth Vader, and it was an odd year, I thought, and this is an interesting move that Florida's going with. Bill, I know a program that you're always keeping your eye on.
Yeah, Florida was busy yesterday handing out. Now, they didn't give Mike White a raise, but they gave him an extension. And just kind of knowing some people down in the Tampa area and kind of closer to Gainesville as well. Man, there was a lot of people upset, a lot of Florida fans upset yesterday with athletic director Scott Strickland for giving this raise and this extension to Mullen, because as I kind of talked to some people, 8-4 is not acceptable by Florida standards. And then Mike White, I think they were giving me the stats, like they're not pleased with him. He hasn't been to the Final Four, has just lost a ton of players off of his team that he had transferring out. It's kind of an interesting time for Florida right now when you talk about giving out extensions. Now, I will say this: I've always been a fan of Dan Mullen, and I think he's a very good coach. I think that we're seeing some personality out of him. I don't know if it's misplaced because of exactly what you just said, the situation with the Darth Vader costume, especially on the heels of, I think that was the day. I want to say, Tim, that was the same day as the fight with Missouri, where he was basically out there being WWE.
That's why it was so weird.
Right. Yeah. Also, I didn't realize this. I guess they canceled their spring game. Didn't have a spring game, and that was not necessarily Dan Mullen's. All I could understand is that was Scott Strickland's call on that. But Mike White has one top 25 finish in 6 seasons. That was obviously his Elite 8 year. You know, people are undecided on what exactly Dan Mullen is doing down there, if this is returning Florida to its glory place under Spurrier and Urban Meyer. So I don't know. What do you guys make of what exactly?
Really undecided? He just went. I mean, he's a great coach. I thought that was pretty obvious.
Do you think
I think Dan Mullen's
championship game?
Dan Mullen's a good coach. I don't think you put him in that great category yet. You got, especially at Florida, you got to win championships. And how it went down last year, just odd, I thought, in a lot of ways. Now, is he the 3rd best coach in the SEC, or does he deserve to be the 3rd highest paid? I can see that argument. I think right. I think we would all take Dan Mullen over Ed Orgeron in a heartbeat when it comes to game day coaching, anyway, and clearly tutoring quarterbacks in the whole deal. but you win a national championship and you cash in on it. I get that from Ed Orgeron's perspective. How he fits moving forward and those decisions he makes, that Missouri situation was weird. And then also how he handled the COVID deal after the Texas A&M game, saying he wanted everybody to pack the swamp. I know that was a bit of a hit from a public perception for Dan Mullen, from a lot of people as well. Then the timing of this thing, doing it now, that Mike White extension that you mentioned, Bill, didn't come with the raise. It was more of kind of a Frank Martin situation where you got to make a move one way or the other. It's a 2-year extension now for the 26 and 27. And I get people being upset with Mike White, but you know how many Florida's been to the tournament 4 straight years. That's not a huge accomplishment for the University of Florida in the NCAA tournament, and just kind of shows you what that program expects. But it's clear, we see it every single year, right? Frank Martin knows how to beat Mike White. He's taken it time and time again, a less talented team or a less successful team, and ended up winning against Florida. There's something in that matchup there. But you got to give White some credit, I guess, for some overall success there, and at least NCAA tournament appearances. I think from the Gamecock perspective, and on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, Gator Steve says, I like the Dan Mullen raise. I think from the Gamecock perspective, you don't have a big problem with it, with what you're seeing over there at Florida. Todd hits us up, says, good morning, fellas. We're going to find out what Dan Mullen and the Florida Gators are all about on September 18th with the Kings of College Football, the greatest dynasty ever. Rolls into Gainesville, roll Tigers. So I'd say, I can see it why Florida fans aren't thrilled right now from everything that they have come from the championship era of Spurrier and Urban Meyer compared to now. Certainly what Billy Donovan offered as the Florida head coach to Mike White now. It just kind of shows you that you got to compare it relatively to your previous programs and not from the outside looking in. I get where Florida fans are coming from.
Is it the same as basically Mark Kingston right now, what we kind of just watched with baseball season? Like, they're good. I don't know if they're good enough to beat the elite teams. We didn't see that.
Really, though? Just go back 2 years ago, LSU scored on every possession in that game in the Swamp, and it was Kyle Trask's third start or something like that, and they took LSU the distance, probably played LSU better than anybody did that year. They go to the SEC championship the next year with a kid who was a backup quarterback in high school. If I was a Florida fan, I'd just be saying, wait till we get an actual 5-star
Patrick, I don't know if you followed Florida. I don't know if you followed Florida. That's not good enough for them. They've had 2 decades basically. Ron Zook got in the way a little bit of the Steve Spurrier to Urban Meyer transition. I feel like what you're saying now is the Florida that you've become accustomed to with Will Muschamp and whatever that program was.
That's what they were when he took over.
Yeah, this has got to be a generational thing. Patrick's 25, in case you guys were wondering. So you didn't see the Steve Spurrier era. You didn't.
I saw Urban Meyer win multiple national championships.
Right.
But
that was all.
That's not the program he took over, though.
I get it.
Ron Zook left him a really good program, Zook could recruit, could coach, but this is where there has been so much success, really. And here's the thing for Florida fans, it was only in about a 20-year period, right, Tim? That's kind of the other crazy thing. It wasn't like there was a lot of history in Florida prior to 1990 when Steve Spurrier showed up, and then the run that they went on, especially in the SEC, was as dominant as there has been was. Now, they weren't winning national championships like Alabama was. They played in one, they won one, but then you've got Urban Meyer comes in and eclipses that with 2 national championships. And Patrick, I think the Florida fans' point here is they haven't been close since.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying the program he took over was not the same program that Urban Meyer took over. It was the Jim McElwain program.
Yeah, no doubt. And he's done a good job, but
I don't think they've been nearly as talented. I don't think they were even close to as talented as Georgia was last year. And they make an SEC championship because clearly Dan Mullen gets more out of talent than most coaches.
Right. But you keep bringing up
what he did at Mississippi State. And I think most Florida fans use Todd Grantham as the reason that they were not as successful as they should have been. I know he was pretty despised for a large portions of last year.
Right, but when you're the head coach, you're in charge of the talent, you're in charge of your defensive coordinator, you bear the ultimate responsibility there. We're just saying, having seen the Spurrier era of dominance in the SEC, not the SEC East, not going to SEC championship games, dominating the entire conference, then seeing Urban Meyer take it over and get it back to that place, Florida clearly hasn't returned there. And it's Dan Mullen's job to get them there. And it's still going to be a long road, I think. And I'm not convinced that he's the guy to get them there after what I've seen. Good coach, no doubt. National championship winning guy. Can he maintain it there? Can he keep that thing under wraps? That is a program notorious for getting off the rails real quick. That's where we have some doubts. 803-404-6100, the number. Love to hear your thoughts. You can call or text here. It's the early game. It's 107.5.
It's a new year. The hungry, the driven, new attitude.
Memorial Day may be over. We may be moving further into June, but good news. That's not how Sleep Number sees it. They've still got the Memorial Day sale going on. Right now, you can discover proven quality sleep during the Memorial Day sale. Save $1,000 on the Sleep Number 360 Special Edition Smart Bed exclusive offers available for military members only at Sleep Number stores. Or you can visit them on the web, sleepnumber.com. Again, those Sleep Number stores, two to choose from, one in Irmo and Harbison Boulevard across from Buffalo Wild Wings, the other in Columbia, 2 Notch Road across from Sand Hills Mall. Again, you can visit them on the web. I put my Sleep Number setting on 45, wake up rested, refreshed, ready to go each and every morning, handle a sports talk show, or as I just discovered, forget to wake up my kids to take them to school. That's how rested, refreshed, and ready to go I am. I have to go do that now. So I had such a good night of sleep. I woke up excited to do the show and have totally forgotten to wake up my kids to take them to school. We're going to go do that here in a few minutes. You can make the switch today. Find out what a great night of sleep is truly like by switching to Sleep Number, and check out the Memorial Day sale where you can save $1,000 on a Sleep Number 360 Special Edition Smart Bed. Make the switch to Sleep Number today and find out what a great night of sleep is truly like.
Good luck.
Wow.
Bill Gunter, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, school's almost over. They can be late. Good. Need to get something going on the whiteboard there, Patrick.
There's nothing to put on it at this time of year.
This is where put you to the test. If you think it's slow now, just wait till baseball season's done. For the Gamecock.
I haven't gotten into 2022 draft prep yet.
So that's the real issue.
Well, it was the draft board. That is the real issue. I mean, I kind of have, but when people aren't playing games, it's hard to know. Georgia's going to have 2 probably top 10 players on the 2023 board, though. At the same position.
23 board in mind, huh?
Well, Georgia's now got probably the best tight end pairing, or at least a tight end pairing with the most potential I've ever seen, easily.
Yeah, I don't see Gilbert handing out, man.
He panned out last year.
And transferred from LSU.
Yeah, I think he probably doesn't care very much about school, but as a player, I think last year was definitely him panning out. They expected him to have 1,000 yards, but it was also a weird season in LSU through 3 quarterbacks. So it was bizarre, but he still was good.
Morning, John. Craig's looking for top 10 picks. Pops wants the depth chart from OTAs for Washington. Well, Jim from Carolina Beach this morning just wanted to make sure that we recognized all the ACC champions.
No.
Virginia winning men's lacrosse, Boston College winning women's lacrosse. Turk Pettit was the dude's name who won it in golf from Clemson.
Boston College had one of the greatest women's lacrosse players of all time. I just found out about her.
And how did you just find out about her? Just watching this weekend?
Watching highlights and stuff. She can shoot underhand, which doesn't really happen in girls lacrosse. Like absolutely rip it underhand, which is really cool to watch in that sport. And she kind of just dangles the stick, which you can't really do.
Morning, Rodney.
The Spike Ball Summer Invitational is going on this weekend.
Nice. Where at?
At Segra Park.
What?
They're taping it for ESPN2.
That's awesome. I was gonna say it better be outside. I think it played inside in like gyms and stuff.
I assume this is what they play on the 8/8 when ESPN is the Ocho for a day. Because it says they're taping
it outside of that, man.
It says they're taping it for August.
Right.
It's a lot though. 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's a lot of spike ball.
Neil, I think if Dan Mullen were more humble, we may give him a little bit more credit for the job he's doing, but his attitude makes me root against him. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see him as not a humble guy necessarily. Last year so weird in a lot of ways. A couple of weird instances, Patrick.
I mean, I don't like him at all, but I disagree that I would give him more credit if he was more likable because I don't think there are 5 coaches better than
going on a rant here, but I think for some reason, just couldn't hear you, Patrick. Sorry about that. That was a good eye roll, Jen, we had there. What was that, Patrick?
I don't like him either, but there aren't 5 coaches better in college football, so I disagree that I would give him more credit if I liked him.
Okay. Donald on Twitter, we're not ripping Dan Mullen, just saying it was an interesting move that Florida made. And what happens moving forward, man? Obviously, it's going to be on him. He'll get all the credit if Florida gets back to championship form, but there's plenty of potential for the other way as well. Hour 2 coming up.
Sorry, Patrick. That was so used to having Bill was spotted up, so if he'd been talking, it'd be great.
Yeah, an easy villain over there, I think, right now, for sure. I mean, when you dress up like Darth Vader, it's a pretty easy villain.
Yeah, he's just a weird. I don't really understand his vibe. Really.
Start looking up some baseball stuff now. Gamecock pitching stats. Official pad out here. .29th in ERA is where the Gamecocks come in. Ooh, Virginia 18th. Interesting. See, Patrick, where do you think the Gamecocks rank as a team, home runs in the country?
I think it probably dropped off quite a bit towards the end. I still probably
What do you got?
I'll say they're like 21st.
14th.
Okay.
78 home runs.
And Old Dominion is number 1.
8 more homers than Arkansas this year. 101.
Wow.
Crazy.
Hmm.
See where Virginia is on this list. Don't see him in the top 50. There's Virginia Tech. Virginia right there. Just 35 homers. Let's go strikeouts. Yeah. Strikeout to walk ratio. How many strikeouts per night? Gamecocks 6th.
But you're not doing math, are you?
No, just writing stuff down. Virginia's 13th.
Just making sure.
Seventh again. Oh, excuse me.
That's you.
Hey.
Goodness, bless.
Thank you.
Why is that there? We're about to head back in.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Guys are up.
It's because lacrosse is over and you haven't started your NFL draft prep. Is that the deal for cantankerous Patrick Perrette this morning?
I don't know what cantankerous means.
Let's
What?
see. It's a great word.
I've heard the word. I couldn't tell you
Let's
what it
see.
means.
Jen, I think that's it. We can go into my vocabulary well right now. Can you think of a synonym for cantankerous that's multisyllabic as we start hour number 2 today?
Well, cranky.
That does have 2
just-
syllables.
I-
What else would we go with besides cantankerous? Cranky is definitely there. Ordering?
Why? Because I like Dan Mullen, or I think he's a good coach.
all right, yeah.
No. Just overall. So I mean, even the tone right there is an
Well, I
example.
googled cantankerous, and it says argumentative and uncooperative. The only thing we've disagreed about is Dan Mullen.
Okay.
I
And
think
we're-
I'm being the positive one.
I don't think we're disagreeing necessarily. It's just where Florida finds itself after giving their head coach a extension and making him the 3rd highest paid coach in the SEC, 5th highest in the country. But because of what happened last year, 8-4 happened. Patrick, we agree. 8-4 at Florida is nothing to get a $1.5 million raise for. You with me on that?
Yeah.
That's what happened last year. Go in on NCAA probation for recruiting violations. Not exactly a great way for college football coaches to improve their stock. That's all they're saying. Dan Mullen has certainly proven his track record there at Mississippi State, and then solidifying the Florida program, certainly stabilizing, might be the best way to put that, them towards the top of the SEC East. The question for me is he going to be able to get Florida back to championship form?
I think they already are. I think that's the disagreement, because it's just watching the way they played Alabama. Nobody played Alabama better last year.
Agreed there.
And they did it without Kyle Pitts.
I hear you. And you mentioned they did it with Kyle Trask, and he wasn't as talented as maybe some other quarterbacks are going to be. But I guess that's where I'm at with Dan Mullen right now. There are no excuses at Florida football. And I get it that Jim McElwain was talking about a guy, when you're going to use the name weird or odd, that was it for sure for his era. And it didn't leave the covered stock necessarily. But will be interesting to see what happens with Dan Mullen. That's all I'm saying. Welcome into hour number 2. Hope your Wednesday's off to a good start on this holiday week, where we've got Gamecock news from the basketball perspective and 7th Woods transferring out of the program. Patrick, I really heard your thoughts there. To me, it just never was a match that really worked out from either perspective, from Gamecock basketball or 7th Woods. And now Woods, the former Hammond prospect, going to be looking for his 3rd school in his college career.
Yeah, I just think he really suffered from a 16 million times viewed YouTube video when he was 14 years old. I looked it up this morning to see how many times it was, and it's 16.2 million, I think. And every kid watched that. Every kid my age watched that video. If I said the name 7th Woods to anyone from Maryland, they'd probably know the hoop mixtape of him. And he was just so hyped at such a young age that it was like he was going to be doomed no matter what. Unless he came out and did what Zion Williams did, it was going to be tough for him to live up to all the hype. And it's not an easy position to be in when you're that young. Overall, he's a successful person. He won a national championship. He's got his degree and all that stuff. But it wasn't a fit at South Carolina. Maybe if he came in I want to say maybe if he came in at a different time, if he had come right away and gotten to really grow with the program, maybe that's one thing. But he still had a year to practice, and before this past season when he got on the court for the first time. It just didn't work out. So I don't know where he's going to end up. I guess I would assume it's a smaller school around here, around the Carolinas, and it'll be fine. But it's just unfortunate how he was kind of just a victim of the viral video world that we live in, and especially basketball, which is a very much highlight-driven sport. There's plenty of these guys whose videos can just go crazy overnight, and everyone will anoint them as like the next big thing, and it's not really a fair expectation for them to live up to.
Speaking of transfers, Georgia football the landing spot for a couple of relatively big names. Eric Gilbert, a freshman tight end from LSU last year, had a really good season. He ended up transferring out of that program. He's landing at Georgia. That news coming out yesterday. Darian Kendrick, the in-state prospect from Rock Hill, who started a bunch of games for Clemson the last 3 seasons, also transferring over to Georgia. What do you make of a couple of big-time transfers joining the Georgia mix? I believe you were talking mock draft, and you're already saying that it's way up on the board in a couple of years.
I'll start with Kendrick. Darian Kendrick came to Clemson as a highly touted receiver, flipped over, and became a decent little, I guess more than a decent little quarterback, because he would have probably been a fringe first round pick this year if he had gone to the NFL draft. A lot of people were surprised to see him go back to school, but then he got into trouble and was immediately released from the program. So not too surprised to see him there. The Georgia has a lot to replace. They lost their three starting quarters in Tyson Campbell, Eric Stokes, and DJ Daniel, Bill mentioned, also Richard LeCount, the safety. So they have a lot. They do that every single year, though. Georgia basically puts their whole secondary in the NFL. The tight end one was interesting, though. Eric Gilbert going to Georgia, because the kid they have now, who didn't play very much last year because of Trey McKitty, who's also in the NFL. Now I can't remember what team drafted him. But Darnell Washington is just a freakazoid. I mean, he's 6'7", 260 pounds. He was a top 20 recruit, listed as an athlete. So him and Eric Gilbert probably would have been the top 2 recruits. So I'm just imagining this tight end group that Georgia's going to have next year with 6'7", 260-pound Darnell Washington, 6'5", 250-pound Eric Gilbert. Both of them can run like receivers, like just absolute freak athletes, matchup nightmares. It's going to be one of the most potentially scary, physically imposing tight end duos that I've seen in my life as a college football fan. I know Iowa put Noah Fant and TJ Hawkinson in the first round of the draft 3 years ago. And I think Georgia is on their way to potentially doing the same thing. That was my first thought, was how scary that's going to be, that little combo there.
So not great news from the Gamecock perspective there. The Florida news from yesterday, the extension for Dan Mullen, maybe not necessarily great news, depends how you look at him. And from the Gamecock specific standpoint, Shane Beamer excited about the recruiting activity that started yesterday, June 1, opening things up, and had a big-time 2024 prospect roll by in Columbia, and was very vocal about that on Twitter yesterday. Guy's name, 2024, I'm talking about a defensive tackle prospect, Heaven Brown Schuler, listed at like 6'5", 260 or something to that degree, but wouldn't be able to come and help for next season, would be another year down the line, which is kind of where the Gamecock football program is at with the new coaching staff, trying to establish some of those relationships and having to take the long-term approach for a lot of those guys where the recruiting process starts so early these days. We will continue to discuss those issues, but when we come right back, going to get into Gamecock baseball, Carolina pitching coach Skylar Mead is set to join us with the Gamecocks getting ready for their noon first-round NCAA tournament game at Founders Park Friday against Virginia. Skylar Mead up next here. It's the early game. It's 107.5 again. He is by far the best video stream guest we've had. Everybody else can't figure it out. You got to figure it out, man.
Actually, the only one.
Yeah, it's
really good.
What are we, 1, 4, 7, or 8, something like that, Patrick?
Yeah. I think Jeffco figured it out.
Oh, yeah. Drew Meyer and Jeffcoat, they did all right. It's true.
Luke Day was a mess.
Please don't make me feel bad. You haven't gotten in a workout as well this morning already, have you?
No, I was just doing a bunch of work in here early, so it worked out nice.
Impressive. Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no problem at all. No problem at all.
You got any connections to the coaches rolling in, the Old Dominion guys or Virginia guys?
So the Virginia pitching guy I've been friends with for like 12 years. He was at Illinois when I was at Eastern Illinois, and obviously Michigan State. And then so I remember his whole process going to Virginia. That was good. So I know him well. I know the assistant at Old Dominion well, Logan Robbins. And then Fenwood was at Western Kentucky when I was at Middle. So with that little rivalry, I know him well. I don't know the guys at Jacksonville though. I think their pitching guy, like I go back with, but I'm not like boys with.
Gotcha.
How far is Eastern Illinois from Champaign?
50 minutes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it's not quite like the same. People in radio or TV always say, "Oh, man, it's such a small business, and you know somebody everywhere." Is that the same in baseball, in college
I
baseball?
mean, it is for me. I mean, well, especially if you recruit a lot, you're just around everybody. You know what I mean?
Right.
So somehow you get connected, or you're connected to, somebody's friends with so and so, and you talk to them in the summer and stuff like that. And I mean, it's hard to have like a team or someone come in and you not have any connection to one of the coaches somehow.
Right. What about you got Paul Maneri coaching connections since he was at Notre Dame as long as he was? I'm guessing that might have been that was about your time getting into it, right?
Yeah, when I think it was like maybe his last year at Notre Dame, got the same league in the Big East. But I was hurt that year, so I was out the whole year. So I didn't even. And then he left and went to LSU that next year when Dave Strag came in, and so, Paul. Like for example, Paul's one. Like I've never really sat and talked to him, but his assistant I talked to a couple times a week. His third base coach, and I like their pitching coach. I've never he's not one like I call and chat with, but in the summer we'll sit there for hours and kind of hang out.
Right. So we did have the question earlier. What happens with rain this weekend? Any idea how that would work out? Obviously, they just keep pushing it back and get it in, but anything specific?
No, not really. I mean, I think the only thing, and I don't know if this is even still rule, back in the day, you couldn't start a game in the rain. It was that was actually like an NCAA rule, which is a good rule, by the way. But no, other than just sit and wait, that's about it.
Gotcha.
I mean,
you guys have not.
Early.
You guys haven't put out the pitching plans yet, correct?
We have not yet. No.
I will put you on the spot then and throw you under. That's cool with you.
No, that's all good.
I'll try not to get too specific on that, I guess. But I assume later today, is that when King will put it out?
Yeah. It's somebody who started games before, so we'll just put it out.
Gotcha.
People should be able to figure that out.
God, what's going on in Louisville right now? Your basketball program's a mess. You got guys charged with corruption. You got being sued by.
This could be any of the last 8-10 years, right? What do you mean? What's going on now?
It was kind of fun. It was kind of fun the other day when Bill was talking about. Oh yeah, my friend Dino is being. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that was a bad look for Dan. I don't know what the heck he was doing.
Brutal.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit of a mess right now. That's you guys? All right.
That's us.
Yeah. Nice work, Jen.
All right. Sorry, I'm getting these headphones. All right, you got me loud and clear there?
Oh, nice work.
Can you hear me on that?
We talked him up. That's pressure, maybe.
Looks like he got it.
Of course, AirPods would not work for a second.
It's good. Get Jen's heart going over there. Jen, we good?
Hold on one sec. I'll just retry it.
All right. I see you, Jen. I'll just go until I see a thumbs up. Hey, Thursday, June 17th, would love your help for a good cause. It's our summer blood drive. Help us out at the American Red Cross right there on Bull Street in downtown Columbia, 10 a.m. through 4 p.m. Pre-registration is encouraged, but walk-ins are welcome. This is Thursday, June 17th. You can go to our website, 175thegame.com for more information. You can also go there right now if you want to get plenty more NCAA tournament baseball talk, where Chris Linwood, the Old Dominion coach, joined Keith Klein yesterday on Game Time for about 12 minutes or so. Interesting interview there with the guy who's leading the team. The country in home runs has set a record with BB Core bats, I guess, with 101 home runs. Old Dominion coming in as the 1 seed for the Gamecocks. It's not the first round matchup. That is Virginia, and that's probably where we'll spend the bulk of our time now with our guest on the Love Chevy phone line. Skylar Meade, the Gamecock pitching coach, joins us this morning. He's also up on the live video stream if you want to join us on Facebook, YouTube Live. And we've said, Patrick, clearly Skylar the best with technology that has joined us yet so far. I got the AirPods working over there, Skylar. We're good to go?
We are good to go.
All right, fantastic. Let's start, I guess, chronological order. It's been more than a week now since you guys have played. Plenty of rest. How have you handled that with your pitchers since the 1-game trip over to Hoover more than a week ago? I guess it's going to be like a 9-day break for you guys. I would imagine when you're the pitching coach, that's probably the trickiest spot with the rhythm and the routine that your guys have been in all season long.
Yeah, so what we did was, when we got back on Wednesday evening, we played Tuesday. We got back Wednesday evening. We, of course, didn't do anything throwing Wednesday. And Thursday was like a big lift day. But, over the course of the last week, what we try to do is you kind of ride that fine line between like rest and recovery and also getting better. And so, for example, yesterday we had like 8 guys throw live that needed to get, repetitions in and face some hitters. And then we had some guys that have just been long tossing like crazy, doing some light bullpen work and things like that. And that's been very helpful for them, just in the process of getting themselves ready to go. But I think the ability to rejuvenate has been huge for a lot of guys. I think especially for Brandon and Thomas Farr, they've started every single week, which can be a grind. I mean, we've never had them go high in their pitch count, but you're getting ready every single week. You do it the weeks before the season. So I think for them, it's going to be very beneficial to having them kind of juiced up and ready to go when it is their time to throw this weekend.
Yeah, those starting pitchers certainly on the high on the list from a Gamecock fan perspective. I think another bullpen guy, and Andrew Peters, is high on the list as well. It didn't quite look himself towards the end of the year. Where is Andrew Peters out in your bullpen?
Well, I mean, I'll say this because it was exciting yesterday. He actually faced some live hitters yesterday. It was 94, 96. Had his explosion on his ball back. Breaking ball was good. Changeup was good. I think what people maybe tend to forget or maybe not realize, and it's our job to know this. I mean, he's a guy who, he got hurt at his junior college and needed Tommy John. And because he's a freak athlete, he came back last year and wasn't himself, wasn't ready mechanically, arm-wise, whatever. But this is his first season back pitching post, Tommy John. And so for him, I think he was dealing with just a little bit of arm fatigue. It was nothing that he never has thrown more than 70 pitches in a game. It was nothing like overuse per se. It was just use. And so this break's been great for a guy like him too. But, he also has made some, subtle adjustments and worked really hard. I thought he looked great yesterday. He was really the the start of the show in terms of what we were trying to get accomplished yesterday, besides getting our hitters some bats. But he was really good, and we expect him to do the same thing when his number's called over the course of this weekend.
He's Gamecock pitching coach Skylar Meade. Speaking of numbers, Skylar, pretty good from your pitching staff perspective. A lot of people would say better than that. I saw one national college baseball writer say that the Gamecocks have the arms to get to Omaha. They do that because of strikeout numbers, I think, is the most impressive. Ks per 9. You guys are 6th in the country with 11.2. Strikeout to walk ratio, 27th in the country. ERA, 29th in the country. Good numbers there. The team you're playing against in round number 1 with some good pitching numbers as well. How do you rate, I guess, the season to this point, now that the regular season's in the books, from your pitching staff standpoint? How do you evaluate what you've seen so far as you guys get ready for postseason play here in the NCAA tournament?
I think our season is certainly – I think we've done what we need to do to give ourselves a chance to win nearly every game. I mean, you could probably pick 2 or 3 in there that you just you have a starter maybe not throw well, and you put your team in a bind early. But, if you gave me the numbers and said, hey, this is where you are, I mean, we would certainly sign up for it. Could they always be better? Yeah, of course. Every coach is going to say that. I think one thing we've really challenged our guys on, and this is a key to tournament play, in my opinion, from a pitching standpoint, we got to be great with 2 outs. We got to be great with 2 strikes. You mentioned our strikeout numbers, and we struck out a little less the last month or so, and some of that's by design. I think we've had some starters that we want to go deeper in games, so they've pitched, a certain way to maybe get some soft contact early. But you're going to have big strikeouts. There's going to be runners on 2nd and 3rd, 1 out. You're going to need to make a big pitch. There's going to be a bases loaded spot that, hopefully this place is jumping with 8,000 plus people, and we need to punch out a guy. So a lot of that's been good. The walk stuff a little early. We had some high numbers, just as the year started, but that's really leveled out, and we're about where I think we should be. If you're going to strike out a bunch of people, sometimes a byproduct of that is a little bit of walks, but if you told me we're at 3, I think we're about 3.78. I would say that's about where we should be. Could it be better at times? Yeah, of course. I mean, I want to hold our guys to a high standard, but it's historically high strikeout rates. We generally don't give up hits, and we're going to need to do that in this tournament. We're going to need to do it on Friday and beyond if we want to do the things that we do. I do tell our guys, and especially the top arms we have, that's their job. I'm not asking them to do any more, but they need to give us a high level chance to win, and they need to be on their game so that we can do all the things that we talk about in the postseason.
He's Gamecock pitching coach Skylar Meade. Speaking of that, game number 1 in a double elimination NCAA tournament, awfully important. And I've said it many times on this show, it's one of the most impressive, if not the most impressive parts of the Ray Tanner run in Gamecock baseball that I watched, is that first game in a regional was a lock most of the time. I don't remember a loss in those games for South Carolina, and that was the standard that Ray Tanner and his team set. And I feel like it was always an ace first mentality when other programs would use maybe their second guy and save an ace for a second game in a double elimination regional and use some different strategy. That was typically the Ray Tanner strategy. What about you? I know Mark Kingston's going to put out the pitching rotation later today, so not looking for a name necessarily, but more the process and the conversation between you and the head coach there. How do you guys look at setting up your pitching staff for this weekend?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And let me take one step back. I think what people, sometimes don't realize is necessarily the games that it can take. And so you want to win the first game to put yourself in that winner's bracket deal, of course. But if you can go win those first 2, now you have to beat twice. You only have to win 3 games. You lose one of those first 2, you're going to have to win, you're going to have to end up winning 4 games. And so it ends up putting you in a 5-game pinch. And that's where you can really streamline a pitching staff. I think we have the pitching staff to, of course, do that, but I'd prefer that we do not lose a game. That is not the process we want to take. And so, I think, Coach Kingston's talked about in the past, in his, Miami days, for example, how they would set up their pitching. And I think the times were a little bit different, and they would throw their they're 2 in the first game, or even sometimes they're 3 and then they're 1, and they had a way they could do it. The problem with that is this: you got to throw your best early, because college baseball is so much more competitive. I think 20 years ago, and not to age Coach Kingston, by the way, not in that terms, but it just changed. Everybody's got a dude on the mound. Everybody's got good players. You're going to see guys from teams that you wouldn't even know across the country that are throwing the ball 93, 94 miles an hour with a great breaking ball that can go out there and stuff any team in the country. They can stuff an SEC team, an ACC team, Big 12, et cetera. And so I think the days of playing those games and holding guys, I think it can be very difficult in a slippery slope. So, we'll go at it with our best guys, give it our best shot. We'll have all of our best bullpen guys ready. I mean, it's not going to be a scenario where it's like, hey, let's see if we can skate by without. No, we're going to go at it with our dudes. And if you go down, you're going to go down swinging with them. And that's the way that we're going to go at this thing starting Friday at noon.
Impact pitching coach Skylar Meade throwing his head coach Mark Kingston under the bus, calling him old and crusty, I believe was the exact quote there.
Exactly.
From the scouting report standpoint, how do you see a team like Virginia, I think headlined by who I assume will be their first game starter, Andrew Abbott, who Old Dominion coach Chris Linwood called one of the best lefties in the country. I know that's not really your preparation because you're worried about the other opposing batting lineup, but how do you see Virginia at this point?
Well, and they will throw him. Andrew will throw, and I know Coach Kingston got to be around him with Team USA. In practice today, I'll kind of simulate him in a little, live kind of scrimmage thing we'll do. So he's very good, strikes out a ton of dudes, can throw the fastballs in the zones, got a little bit of cut, he's got a little crossfire, some deception in there. Not a big guy, 6 foot, about 180, 185. Coach Dickinson, the pitching coach up there, has done a real nice job transitioning him from reliever to starter, which has been impressive. And so they're good. They're going to be a good pitching staff. They got some real arms. In terms of them offensively, I think they're going to be more unique than anyone that we've seen this year, at least in terms of SEC. Their hitting style is they are not going to strike out. That's their thing. Not saying that hopefully we will strike them out some, but they've only struck out, I think, 357 times. In fact, I got a little stat sheet here, so I don't give you misinformation. 367 times, I'm sorry. And so they try to be very pesky. They're on the plate. They're going to try to move the ball. They're just going to try to pressure you on defense. Now, I think what you can also see is they're pretty aggressive. So hopefully you can get some quick outs. Your starter, if he can be, have the ability to execute, can get deep into a game and then pass the ball off to whoever your best reliever is. And so I think that, they got some guys that got a little bit of thump, but power's not their game. It's really just the ability to put the ball in play. They will sack bunt a little bit. They'll do a little drag push in the bunt game to try to pressure you up. And so we'll have to be on our game, especially on the corner infield. And our pitchers are going to probably have to handle a couple plays throughout the game, to put us in a good spot.
That's Skylar Meade with the scouting report on Virginia. Noon Friday is when Carolina plays the number 3 seed there. What about getting the 2 seed and playing at home? What are your thoughts on when that went down? How was the reaction from your standpoint, besides Brendan Malone doing a little jig in front of the TV camera that we all saw? What'd you think, Skylar?
Well, I find it one way a little bit humorous that people are shocked. If you sit there and say, the way things were this year, and I know it was kind of a COVID type decision, but if you're going to put out the 20 teams and you only select 16, maybe this is controversial. We're one of the best 16. We should be one of the hosts. With now the situation with Old Dominion and how great they've played and what a run they've gone on, they didn't put in to be a host. And I know Coach Fenwood mentioned that even yesterday on the radio. I actually heard him talking about it. So if you're asking, should we be a host? Well, yeah, of course. We were one of the 16 most deserving teams. You win 16 games in the best league in the country. You play the strength of schedule we did and do what we did. We deserve it. But I also understand totally why they put us in a 2-seed scenario, which is unique. But Old Dominion is a heck of a team and very deserving of a 1 seed. So I thought the selection committee actually handled it exactly how they should. Old Dominion was rewarded. We also were rewarded because there were not resumes across the country that were better than ours. And so if that offends people, I just think they need to kind of look at what happened, look what we, did through the course of our year. And you find me a bunch of other teams that win 16 games in this league, I'll tell you there's not going to be too many. Doesn't mean we're perfect, doesn't mean we don't have some warts and things we need to do better, but I think we were more than deserving of being one of those host sites.
That's Gamecock pitching coach Skylar Meade, obviously a big fan of Heath Klein and Game Time, and rates this show accordingly. Fourth, I think, out of 4 in our local shows on 107.5 The Game. Final question for you, Skylar. First time in 5 years, Gamecock fans will be able to go to Founders Park in an NCAA regional. What kind of environment are you expecting, looking forward to? But before we do that, what's your velocity up? You said you're going to be simulating Andrew Abbott today on the mound for the Gamecocks in practice. Where you're still in the 90s, aren't you?
Well, certainly according to the track man behind, I did find it funny. Coach Lake had told me that one time that was talked about on the radio, and I got to set the record straight just so people don't think I give misinformation. There is zero shot that this arm and this reconstructed shoulder is going to be hitting 90 anytime soon. But Coach Lake likes to send me a picture every time the old readings are up on the board, and people always get a kick out of that. But we'll have me throw from probably 52, 54 feet. I'll probably throw it in there in the 80s. So we'll simulate his 91, 95 mile an hour fastball. Now I can still spin it in there pretty good. Our hitters, I think, would attest to that. But this thing doesn't move as fast as I think it does. It might move nice, it might move pretty, but it doesn't go in there with Andrew Abbott type velocity. That is for sure.
Impressive. I try to simulate the right side, more like Thomas Farr from 46 feet to the 8-year-old coach pitch team, and that really works out well for everybody, I got to tell you, especially when you back them up off the plate and they start crowding me. Just one final comment, Skylar, if you could, about Founders Park. Being able to, I know this process is what we started off with, the 9-day layoff, but it also includes doing it with the familiarity and the luxury of being at home.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's nice. I'm doing this with you guys right now from our own office here at Founders Park. My message first to the fans this weekend, I know Friday it's an early in the day deal, which, look, number one, we've played really good during the day. Those noon starts have been really good for us. So that we're looking at it with that mentality. It should be nice weather, not too warm, but it should be a beautiful day to play. I hope this. I thought that, when we opened up the stadium 100% capacity for that final weekend, I thought our fans were really locked in terms of how they altered the game. And what I mean is they were really loud with 2 strikes for opposing teams. I thought they helped us get some big strikeouts and some big outs. I thought when the wheels started to come off for a certain pitcher, whether he started leaving the ball in the middle of the plate or he started walking guys, I thought we did a great job of getting on them. My hope, and I said it, I think, on a tweet the other day, and it's really true. I hope we get 8,000 people in here. And, just like our guys, they're going to give their 100%. I hope we get 8,000 fans in there that give their 100% to help us do anything we can to go out here and win every game and win a regional for our fans here. Because I know that's what they want. I know they want us in Omaha just like we do. But, I want everybody to be on their game and to be loud and boisterous and make it tough. We've earned the right to host a regional here. We've earned the right for our fans to help us win a regional here. And so I hope everybody can do their part, get their tickets, get out there. We'll write them notes so that they can leave work early, leave work at 11:30, get in here by noon and be really loud on Friday because we're going to need it because it's a really good grouping of teams. And, I think this place, when it rocks, I think it can be a massive home field advantage.
At Skylar T. Meade, where you can hit him up on Twitter for your note to get out of work on Friday. He's the Gamecock pitching coach. Appreciate all the time today. Says he's going to go with their best. Mark Kingston will put out the official pitching rotation coming up a little later on today. Skylar, thanks for the time.
Hey, thank you guys very much.
We'll see if we can put in a good word for Skylar and Heath Klein, and we'll get them on Game Time in the big time here on 107.5 The Game coming up in the next few days or weeks, hopefully for him. Thank you for muddling through with us on the more amateur version of 107.5 The Game here. It's the early game. Plenty more. We kick off the second half of the show when we come back here.
The home of the Gamecocks and new head Beer 107.
Let's see the transition. Can we get it in? Oh, yeah. Nice work, Skyler. Thanks, man.
Oh yeah, no problem. No problem. You have the studio? I know I asked you the other day.
What's that?
Said you ever gonna get back in the studio?
You got. I think September 7th is the date. After Labor Day is the plan.
Okay. Nice. I feel
Yeah. So we've enjoyed this part of it, but looking forward to getting back in there.
absolutely. Shoot, I bet so.
We'll definitely get you in there too. But hopefully we can talk again next week and have plenty to talk about.
Yeah, I would certainly sign up for that. So hopefully it's a good weekend. Those guys will be tough on Friday, but if you, I tell you what, if you can get through this regional, just like we got through that SEC season, you at least. I mean, there's not going to be anything we see that's like, holy crap! Like this is we've never seen an arm like this. We haven't seen a lineup like we've at least kind of seen it all.
No doubt, man. Yeah, that run the SEC will do it this year, especially.
I'm telling you what, it's something. So, but well, shoot. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of the show and do your thing, and hopefully we're talking again next week.
Sounds good, man. Give Louisville a call and get that thing under control, would you?
One of their administrators I was texting with yesterday. I was like, "Can you guys get a hold of your athletic program? Like,
get it together."
I'm telling you, it's. She was like, "Yeah, I'm on vacation. I'm just staying away from it." You're like second in charge there. You need to have accountability. It's out of control.
The football coach is doing everything he can to not admit that he wants to be at Louisville.
Right? Yeah.
Talking about how players. What do you say? It's different with coaches because we have families.
Yeah, it's we'll see. I mean, the baseball thing will be fine. I mean, that was just a random deal for them. Max, unbelievable there, but yeah, I think football will be better. I'm not sure on basketball how that whole thing's gonna shake out down the road. I just think there's too much of a cloud going on. I think it's gonna take a long time.
I hear you, man.
But all right, well, you all do your thing.
All right.
See you guys.
All right, get back to work.
Absolutely. See y'all.
I think the players or coaches are more excited that they get to be at home.
I'd say probably the coaches.
That's what I was saying because they have kids. They have kids to deal with. It.
Right.
Unless that would have been a break for them. As a player, I always kind of liked being on the road.
Right.
I found them to be road trips to be fun. But as a player, you also can't match having all of your fans in the stadium.
Yeah, speaking of that, part of that interview yesterday, Linwood, the Old Dominion coach, mentioned that one of his hitters, he pinch hit him the other day, hit a home run. It's kind of like that Ole Miss story. Elko is playing with the torn ACL. Old Dominion had a guy like that too, except he tore his ACL Grammatica style, celebrating a home run. Brutal.
Was it hitting the bag weird or just jumping up?
Celebrating a home run, yeah, jumping up and landing.
Just landing. Ugh.
Isn't that crazy?
I'm always kind of surprised that there aren't more injuries of guys twisting ankles on bases.
To me, it's the celebration. That's how I know I'm a really old dude. I never thought about that ever in my life until I got old.
Okay.
Like, especially the jump. What do you got? The Bash brother jump?
Yeah. Well, I guess I can't. How big are baseball spikes? Because if you do land on kind of the side of your foot and you land like on the corner of a spike, you can definitely do some damage.
Except those things go on the ground and they're more towards
And
the center
back
of the shoe. I think you're pretty good.
I think it's more of a football sleep thing.
Right. Craig, Facebook Live. Brett Carey, it is then. That's how he translated some of the comments he heard from Gamecock pitching coach Skyler Meade about going with their best, and that is kind of what college baseball is now. Patrick, from your facial expression on the live video stream. You're with Craig on that one?
Well, yeah, I mean, Craig responded to that because when we were talking to Skyler off the air, he said, it'll be somebody that started games before. I'll just say that. And he said, okay, Brett Carey.
That's what
he said. We're throwing our best guys. I mean, we're trying to win game one. All right, that's probably going to be the case.
Well,
you know what? You might not even need a reliever if he's out there because.
Well, that's what pushed me over the edge, because when you say you're starting a guy who started games this year, well, that's
there's so many. Yeah.
It's 5 guys, but 4 legit guys on SEC weekends when you throw Will Sanders in the mix with Thomas Farr, Brandon Jordan,
Right.
Brett Carey. But as he was describing Virginia's lineup, then to me, we've heard Mark Kingston say he's going to do the matchups and go with the smartest one out there. That one fit Brett Carey to a T. If Virginia's not going to strike out, you don't want to throw more of a strikeout guy out there, which I think is Thomas Farr or Brandon Jordan. Brett Carey is the guy to pitch to contact and to get outs to work late in the game. And we saw him throw the first complete game shutout since 2014, and Will Crow did it a couple of weeks ago against Kentucky. So that's how I translated Skyler Meade, the pitching coach, doing his job and letting the head coach make the official announcement and the whole thing. Just our opinion. It might come out differently a little later on today, but we are expecting the pitching rotation to be announced later on today. Andrew Abbott going for Virginia, their best guy and one of the best guys in the country, especially from the left side. I think that is the more intriguing matchup. Carolina starting pitching in game 1 in the first game of a series in the SEC, obviously struggling, going 2-8 overall in the record. But I think it's been not necessarily the Gamecock starting pitching that's been the issue there. They've kept Carolina in game. It's been the dominance of the SEC starting pitcher in game 1s that has really kept Carolina from having success there. And I think that is a legit concern for Gamecock baseball with another good pitcher on the mound, another front line, top line kind of guy, and Andrew Abbott, one of the best lefties, an 8-5 record. So it's not like he's been unhittable. It's not like Virginia's given him a ton of run support either in some of those game 1s in ACC series where they got 8 teams, I think, in regionals, 8 ACC teams, 9 SEC teams. So not like the ACC was an easy league over there, Patrick.
I don't think Skyler mentioned. He talked about how he's like not a bigger guy, but like you were just saying with Carey being better at pitching to contact. Do you know anything about this? What this Virginia kid does? Is he a strikeout pitcher, or is he?
Oh yeah, the strikeout numbers are ridiculous.
They're huge.
Okay. Yeah, they are not quite 2 per inning, but a lot 1 per inning.
Oh boy.
And that's where the matchup comes into play from the Gamecock perspective. We've seen that coming up and kind of rearing its head for the Gamecock lineup. We'll see what a 9-day break does for the Gamecock hitters. I think the argument is there more from the hitting perspective than the pitching. And I think from an arm perspective and a rest perspective, I think pitchers can benefit a little bit more than hitters because you rest that arm. And I don't think it's as much of a rhythm thing or seeing things, but hearing Skyler Meade saying that they've done some at-bats on the mound yesterday. They did some live at-bats in practice to get the hitters kind of back into that rhythm. We'll see how Carolina reacts, and then especially after he's kind of doing his Andrew Abbott impersonation today at practice. Well, it's always good to have a former college pitcher. Skyler got to the College World Series with Louisville. Good to have one of those guys on your coaching staff as the pitching coach to plug and play there. I was always amazed back in the day that the first practice I went to cover as a TV guy here in town back in 2003, Ray Tanner was on the mound throwing batting practice. I mean, getting after it. I was like, what? The head coach is throwing batting practice? I thought he would just be hanging out, arms crossed, maybe a clipboard, writing a few notes down, but no. That's what baseball guys do. Baseball guys are baseball guys. They get in there and get after it with their players, and that's certainly the case with Gamecock pitching coach Skyler Meade. Will be a fascinating weekend of Carolina baseball. We'll get back into some Gamecock football notes, SEC football notes when we come back as we continue to roll on here. Gamecock basketball transfer to discuss as well. Seventh Woods leaving the Gamecock basketball program. Frank Martin and company, the transition will kind of continue from last year's disappointing year to next year. That's coming up next. 803-404-6100. If you would like to join, it's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game. So yesterday, the 1-year-old are running us around again, and I forget. Oh, we had some little tangerines thrown all over the place, some cucumbers. I think just an absolute. We need to put a tarp down when this kid eats because it ends up all over the floor. Maybe we'll figure that out. Fortunately, we've had some professional help though around our house, keeping everything looking its best. I recommend highly you get Zero Res carpet and air duct cleaning out to your house as well. And it's not just that Zero Res going to make your carpets an area rug like at my house, or your tiles in the kitchen and the bathroom. That's what happened for me. They made them look absolutely fantastic. But that is kind of what I expect with a professional service. What I didn't expect was to feel good about it when it comes to my family. Got an 8 and 6-year-old always rolling around wrestling these days. Their newest move is that they take their shirts off like real wrestlers. But I had nothing to worry about with that cleaning process. No harsh chemicals involved in the powered water cleaning process of Zero Res. You can go to ZeroResColumbia.com to find out all those details. You can book your appointment today. 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, only $119 plus a free hallway when you mention me, Tim Hill. Give Zero Res a call, 803-262-4020. Book online at ZeroResColumbia.com. That's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean. How'd that go?
You ever do that thing where you have the initial jolt of energy early in the morning, and then once you get everything done, it's just off a cliff, kind of exhausted?
Yeah.
It's like I told Ansley, even during that first break when I should have gone to wake up, I was sitting here talking about him. Like I was sitting here going, oh, this is the last time we got to do this today. And then as I started doing sleep number, I looked down and I was like, oh my goodness, it's 6:49.
Classic.
But we got there in time. It worked. The question is, do we forget anything? But I guess they'll just figure it out.
Did you hear any of the Meade?
Do what?
Did you hear any of the Meade interview?
Yeah. I caught maybe the last 4, I'd say maybe the last 7 or 8 minutes, 5, 6, 7 minutes, I guess.
10-4. Oh, all right. We got it. We got Patrick on his whiteboard. He's been reinvigorated.
Top 10, top 5 coaches?
Yeah, somebody said. I said there's not 5 coaches better than Dan Mullen. And no, I would not say Kirby Smart's a better coach than Dan Mullen.
What about Jimbo Fisher?
No.
You got a national championship.
Sure does. Dan Mullen getting Mississippi State to number 1, more impressive than Jimbo winning a national championship with Florida State.
See, as impressive as Dan did at Mississippi State, he's kind of underperforming at Florida.
Disagree.
A little bit of an underperformance so far.
I think the point of our disagreement is that I think Florida is like a legit contender. And you guys think they're –
Did they were last year or they are now?
Well, they certainly were last year, I think. You can make an argument they were the second or third best team in the country last year.
The what?
So the way they played Alabama in the SEC championship, you could argue that at their best, they were the second or third best team in the country at times. What was it? What was the SEC championship? It was a 1-possession game without Kyle Pitts, and Alabama hammered Ohio State, and Ohio State hammered Clemson.
Again, I blocked out all of college football last year.
Not all of it, just after what, week 6?
Week 1. I came back around, week 4, I think. I kind of got back on the train a little bit, but final was 52-46. let's see here. Alabama was up 35-17 at halftime. And Florida scored 2 touchdowns in the third quarter. So they made it 35-31 going into the fourth.
I got a feeling that hour number 3 is going to be a lot of fun here on the show because we talked a lot about that Seventh Woods transfer in hour number 1 and the Gamecock basketball program. Also, kind of how it relates to just where football is from a recruiting standpoint right now, opening things up yesterday and camp starting on campus and all sports across the board. Really, after a year-plus hiatus of an NCAA dead period because of the COVID issues, now getting right back at it. Also mentioned plenty about baseball in this hour, having Gamecock pitching coach Skylar Meade on, and Friday's noon matchup with Virginia. Again, no starting rotation announced for Gamecock baseball. That'll be a little bit later on today. But going with their best is what I took out of that. And Patrick agrees, and Craig, a listener, said, I translate that to mean it will be Brett in game number 1. And I think we all kind of got that feeling, but we'll await official word this afternoon. Bill, the Dan Mullen news out of Florida yesterday about a $1.5 million raise and a contract extension for 3 years, and Patrick's take on it specifically. That Florida, you got it on the whiteboard right now, Patrick, and this is going to lead us into hour number 3, where I feel like we are set up to just yell at each other, unlike we've done in maybe a long, long time because of the way sports has changed in general. Patrick's got on his whiteboard right now. You can see it on the live video stream. 5 names, best 5 coaches in college football as we sit here today. And who is number 5 on that list, Patrick? Well, he is the 5th highest paid coach in the country now that he earned a $1.5 million raise. Bill, I think you're with me. Doing that off an 8-4 season at Florida is kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah, I'll go against you a little bit. It was 8-2. They lost to Alabama, and then nobody played in their bowl game. That doesn't go on him. But there's – now we're okay.
It's going to be Florida excuse out. I'm not going to allow these excuses.
Wow.
I'll be the only one yelling in hour number 3.
Wow.
It's going to be fun here on the early game. Patrick, you're on mute there on the live stream.
I thought I was muted. I thought you needed me.
Didn't see that ending coming. What a twist. I thought I was trying to look real quick. I thought 24/7 Sports just put out their top 25 coaches, and like their big thing was that Dabo was not in the top 5 or 10.
That's just you're just doing too much of that.
That's just writing stuff to get clicks, right?
Oh, yeah, here we go. Yeah, Brad Crawford did this on May 31st on Monday.
Okay.
Patrick had a great shot. It was looking beautiful, and then just device not connected. What do we think? Is it going to work, Patrick?
I hope so. I don't know what happened.
All right, I hear you fine. Looks good. Yeah, so where is Dabo on Brad Crawford's list? Bill, what do you got? What's the number beside Dabo's name?
I don't know what he's talking about. They had a Facebook post of Dabo's number 2. They had a Facebook post up that maybe just meant maybe somebody typed it in and it was supposed to say he's not number 1, but I mean the way they framed this thing, I don't like clicking the way that 24/7 Sports does their Facebook posts. Like, I mean, they do a good job of it. It's what you're supposed to do to get you to click. I will never click off of the Facebook post. I'll just go straight to if I really want to read an article. He's number 2.
He has to be.
Right. That's such hype. Such hype.
Let's see if I can go back and find it real quick. Let's see here.
I'm gonna hate going to bat for someone that I don't like at all.
Those are the most fun.
Best part.
Yeah.
You're John Adams defending someone just because he deserves a good defense. Great That's I think how that HBO miniseries started.
Yeah, the Boston Massacre. He's defending the British in the Boston Massacre.
All right, thank you for the historical context in my just completely
Blank.
ridiculously.
Unbelievable.
I don't know. There's some kind of war or something going on. I don't know what it was.
Paul Giamatti's phenomenal in that show.
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorites. I need to go back and rewatch it.
I've tried to get my friends to watch it. They just wouldn't.
What is this?
But
You need new friends. John Adams. HBO
What is it on?
series? HBO.
Oh,
Came
HBO
out
Max.
a dozen years ago, maybe more than that.
Oh.
it's probably 6 episodes, I would guess, something around that.
Yeah, that sounds right. So it's not too long to watch. But
7 episodes. They're all
Yeah.
between an hour.
Bill, with your history background, you might be into it. I don't know. I can never quite anticipate what you're going to get into or not.
Yeah, I'm finishing up this Tillman Fertitta book, Fertitta, and then I think I'm going to read some on Patton.
Yeah, you're not going to see too many better acting jobs than Paul Giamatti and John Adams. And then the wife from Ozark is Abigail Adams.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree, Trey. Paul Giamatti actually doesn't miss ever.
They switched the picture, but it was May 31st. The nation's top coach heading into the new season may surprise you. Nation's top coaches heading into the new season may surprise you. Is there anything about the top coaches being Saban, Dabo, Lincoln Riley, Kirby Smart at 4? I guess that would surprise.
Not
Jimbo
really.
Fisher at 5 and Ryan Day at 6. Is there anything about that surprises y'all as this?
No, it's basically his exact list behind you.
As this teaser suggests, that's what it was. And now they got a picture of Lincoln Riley on there instead of Dabo. Paul Giamatti.
Volkswagen commercials there, Trey. Volkswagen commercials. What are you doing? What are you doing with that mess?
Which commercials?
The Volkswagen commercials he's in now. I think it's
I don't know. Those are pretty funny. I can get on board with those. They're not the worst.
No,
Where he's
No.
Kieran Culkin's agent.
give me
Whose
that
agent is he?
garbage. Stop trying to make me think that I'm missing out on some kind of epic backstory, Volkswagen. Just try to sell a car.
I think Billions might be my next show.
I tried to do it, man. I couldn't do it. I think because I have the highest of standards for Giamatti, anything he's in.
Have you seen Succession?
What's that?
Succession?
No, I've heard good things, though.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right, let's see here.
Have you done the 000? I think it's you're not much of an Amazon guy. I think it's on Amazon. It's pretty cool.
What Amazon shows have I watched? The Boys. Yeah, I'm not sure what else I've watched. I watched some of Man in the High Castle. likes to start out, but I didn't stick with it, so I would have to probably restart from number 1 again. What else is an Amazon original?
Also, just did The Last Narc. Pretty good documentary.
On Amazon?
No, that one's on Netflix.
I watched The Metal last week, over the weekend, the Amazon original movie where it's a drummer who's losing his hearing, who's going deaf. It was amazing.
Pretty good.
What's it called?
Sound of Metal.
Sound of Metal.
It was up
In
for
the intro.
every Oscar, and I think the guy was kind of expected to win.
No microwave bacon today. I had to take kids to school, which almost totally forgot to do.
It happens.
At least you didn't take him to school on a day off.
Almost completely forgot. But that was the last time for this particular school year.
So, Jim, what are we doing here break-wise? We getting away with
It's
just
in there. It's 8:10 and 8:40.
so just 2? Got it.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, Crider and AAA. You guys are up.
I love the relatively friendly, laid-back, easygoing intro music into hour number 3 because I don't think the content's going to be like that. I think we've got a whiteboard list of 5 college football coaches behind Patrick Perret. If you're watching on the Facebook, YouTube live stream, maybe on Twitter, the station at 107.5 The Game, that video stream sponsored by Buford Linden, you can see the names. We're going to get into that discussion real soon, and I think it's going to be fun. If you're just joining us, you missed a conversation about some of the chatter, the social media posts from Gamecock football yesterday. Shane Beamer and company getting underway, unlike recruiting we've ever seen. Bill, you're the resident recruiting nerd. We've never seen a month set up quite like this, coming off a year-plus dead period because of the COVID issues. Now things have opened up, and yesterday it was a 2024 defensive tackle that Shane Beamer was on social media about, not specifically naming his name because you can't do that, but it's easy to connect the dots. That Atlanta product, Heaven Brown Schuler, defensive tackle, class 2024, stopped by, did his photo shoot, the whole thing. Looked like former Gamecock Corey Miller knows him pretty well and was involved as well. Saw Eric Kimry, our buddy, shouting Corey Miller out for having some impact on him and helping the youth of tomorrow, the youth of today and tomorrow, helping mold them into young men and prospects. And certainly we'll keeping tabs on Gamecock football throughout this month and all that recruiting movement. From the Gamecock basketball perspective, it's the transfer of Seventh Woods out of the program we talked about. It just didn't work. Bill, I think, is that the easiest way to put it? The career has not been quite what certainly Seventh Woods had hoped, but you pointed out he's got a college degree, he's got a national championship ring, certainly nothing to hold your head about, but transferring back home just didn't quite work out in Frank Martin's system. And now Seventh Woods will be moving on after averaging about 5 points per game last year. Sets us up now after our lengthy baseball discussion in the last hour as well with Gamecock pitching coach Skylar Meade. You can check that one out on the podcast page on 1075thegame.com if you missed it. But the college football news yesterday was a couple of transfers over to Georgia. Eric Gilbert from LSU, the tight end, and the Clemson defensive back Darian Kendrick from up in Rock Hill, also moving over to Georgia. But it's not Georgia that really has a setup for our conversation. It's the contract extension and raise for Dan Mullen and exactly the job he's doing. Because we all agree, Bill, good college coach, no doubt about it. Fantastic track record at Mississippi State, developing the quarterbacks with Tim Tebow as offensive coordinator at Florida before then with Urban Meyer. But the question is, where does he rank as far as some of the best coaches in college football? Patrick, go ahead and give us your list. Top 5 coaches in college football, 1 through 5.
Well, 1 and 2 are obviously Saban and Dabo. I think anything besides that would be crazy. Then I have 3 and 4, which I think most people would probably have in their top 5 at least, is Lincoln Riley and Ryan Day. I put Lincoln Riley 3 just because I think he's just super advanced schematically and has been doing it for a little bit longer at this point. And then number 5 is Dan Mullen. So other than kind of the big 4 right now, I say Dan Mullen is the next best of the bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Bill's shaking his head, making sounds right now. You said you checked out an article recently. Where was that article off of? Was it 24/7 Sports?
24/7 Sports, yep.
They were doing the top 5 coaches in college football.
They did the top 25. It goes all the way to the top 25. It just, yeah.
Well, I think this is typical, a typical off-season article that college football publications do. But the names at the top of their list: Saban, Sweeney, Lincoln Riley, Ryan Day. But they did not have Dan Mullen in the top 5. They did have Kirby Smart in there or Jimbo Fisher. How did they rank them exactly? Do you have it in front of you, Bill?
They have Saban at 1, Dabo Sweeney at 2, and I'll go back down here because I started formulating my own list. Lincoln Riley at 3, Kirby Smart at 4, and Jimbo Fisher at 5.
Okay, so Dan Mullen didn't make their list.
He is number 9 on their list.
Number 9. Interesting. So what are the other names that popped up on their list before Dan Mullen?
I can agree with this. Brian Kelly is ahead of that. That is an easy one. Matt Campbell, who is, I would agree with that, has done more at Iowa State. And then you get to Mullen at number 9.
Any idiot can get embarrassed on New Year's Day every single year in Notre Dame.
Embarrassed on New Year's Day. You're talking about Notre Dame. You weren't talking about Florida's 55-20 loss to Oklahoma on December 30th, a couple of days before New Year's Day this past season. So, Patrick, help me understand where you are with Dan Mullen completely. $1.5 million raise. Only Ed Orgeron at LSU and Nick Saban at Alabama will make more money in the SEC. 5th highest paid coach in the country. He went 8-4 last year. Recruiting violations has Florida on probation. That's where Dan Mullen sits right now, and then gets this extension and raise.
Well, I didn't know that Ed Orgeron was making $8.7 million. That's ridiculous. First of all, I think we can all agree that he's outrageously overpaid. Right? I'm not going on a limb there, are we?
No, he got paid for a national championship. I got no problem with that.
Oh. I mean, okay. He shouldn't be paid higher than Kirby or Dan Mullen. I don't know.
Those guys have national championships. They'll win a national championship. You get paid. That's the American way.
I guess our biggest disagreement is that where the state of Florida is right now. Like, unfortunately, I think this is going to end with me making some crazy prediction, like Florida's going to win the national championship, Emory Jones is going to win the Heisman and be the number 1 draft pick and all these things. But I just think that I was super impressed with them last year. Their defense was not good. Their offensive line was not good, yet their offense was still potent. And he just found a way. Like, Kyle Pitts was going to get open no matter what, and it's incredible. But some of the things he did to, like, scheme open Kadarius Toney with room to run, like one of the most dangerous guys in the country, and people were trying to key on him, but he just still found ways to get guys open. I just think he's super impressive in that way, and a dual threat quarterback I think will actually be big with him because, Nick Fitzgerald at Mississippi State was a dual threat guy, and that's who led them to be number 1 in the country. I think Kyle Trask was not necessarily what would have been his ideal quarterback. I think Dan Mullen generally likes the running option, but the stars just kind of aligned for Kyle Trask, and it was impossible to put him on the bench. He just played so well and clearly understood whatever they were trying to get done there. I just think with a better quarterback and a better overall roster, I didn't think the Florida roster was that great last year, but he made so much out of it. And they lost to who they lose to? A&M, who was a borderline college football playoff team. LSU because Marco Wilson threw a shoe. Alabama, and they played Alabama better than anyone in the country did last year. And then a bowl game in which no one played. So
Oklahoma, yeah,
I'll take that.
Well, you take that, but they also beat Tennessee, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Missouri, South Carolina, and Mississippi. Their win there against Georgia is nice, but that Georgia team was flawed last year. I don't think JT Daniels started in that game. I believe it was JT Daniels. Yes, it was
Stetson Bennett. The Beast. Stetson
Bennett was your starter in that game, who was 5 of 16 for 78 yards and a touchdown.
What was Florida's second best win last year?
Mississippi, maybe? Missouri?
But they didn't have a bad loss.
Yeah, but they
I
did.
don't
They
know,
had
man.
one
LSU
really
at
good
home.
win.
LSU at home. Whether Marco
LSU's
Wilson
at
threw
home.
a
It's a
shoe
bad
It doesn't
or
count.
not.
How does that not count?
Because
Why
Marco
not?
Wilson threw a shoe. They won that game.
Because
The game was won.
They lost. They lost
The
the
game was won. Dan Mullen won that game, and
Okay.
Marco Wilson said, "We don't want this anymore."
This goes to my point on Dan Mullen here. I think under Dan Mullen, Florida is closer to losing control than being a national championship team. I think that's what I saw last year. And that is the prime example, and not even the best one. Just Mullen losing his mind, running out the midfield, and then acting like a professional wrestler going to the locker room against Missouri is my best example. Then showing up to the postgame press conference as Darth Vader, Exhibit B, Your Honor. I fully think that they're closer to that extent, to that end of the totem pole, than they are to a national championship. You know how many times Steve Spurrier lost 4 games at Florida? It happened twice. And he didn't take over a championship program at all.
Neither did Dan Mullen.
He took over a championship program. It wasn't at the championship level, but how many times they've won the national championship? Multiple times, 3 times.
Scott Frost took over a championship program too. They stink.
You say Florida was at the place that Nebraska was at?
No, they're not the same place, but just because the team has won championships recently doesn't mean they're a championship program. Like Florida State, Mike Norvell didn't just take over a championship program.
Let me ask you this:
They're broken.
you guys are. This is where numbers are key, in my opinion. You guys are debating top 5. If
don't bring facts.
Tim, hold up, Tim. If Patrick said top 10, would you put up an argument on Dan Mullen?
No. I got no problem with where 24/7 Sports has them at number 9.
Because I'm kind of with, if we're doing just top 5 coaches, if we're just doing top 5 coaches, and accomplishments are a little out the door on this. Nick Saban, 1, it's easy. Dabo Swinney, 2, that's easy. I'm actually going to go Brian Kelly, 3. I think it's a little underrated. Brian Kelly, 3. This is no accomplishments. I'm actually going to give you 4 and 5 are in the same conference, and I think my fifth coach is despised, yet his track record speaks for itself. 4 is Pat Fitzgerald. You want to talk about doing more with less on a year-in, year-out basis? Pat Fitzgerald gets to be number 4. Pat Fitzgerald is number 4. James Franklin. Patrick, you talked about Dan Mullen presiding over Mississippi State to number 1. James Franklin took Vanderbilt to back-to-back 9-4 seasons. Vanderbilt.
What was State's record last year?
I don't care about last year.
Don't talk
I
to me
don't care
about
about
8-4 and an SEC championship berth, and then bring up James Franklin.
Thank you.
Don't do that.
3 11-win seasons in the last 5 years has James Franklin in the top 5. Now, here's what I think is interesting.
Last year?
Lincoln Riley, Ryan Day, and Kirby Smart. Everybody wants to put them in the top 6. Has Lincoln Riley done anything that Bob Stoops didn't do? Has he elevated that program in y'all's opinion?
Penn State was 4-5 last year.
How do you elevate an Oklahoma program that won national championships in the previous regime? You got to win like 2 or 3 in a row. Is that the only way? That's the only way
you got to win one. You got to win one.
But then you would argue it just kept it on the same level, right? Not even elevate.
Ryan Day this will only be Ryan Day's 3rd year, I think, and he's going to have a new quarterback this year. I think that's interesting. And then is Kirby Smart done? He's gotten to a national championship game. Do we necessarily put him ahead of Mark Richt, or did he just inherit a great program with easy recruiting and kept the ball rolling?
Yes.
What we're doing here.
I'll put Mac Brown ahead of Dan Mullen.
No, that's crazy to me.
I can't believe you mentioned 8-4 and then brought up James Franklin, who went 4-5.
I defended you on 8-4. No, Tim mentioned 8-4. Tim, I defended you on that and said.
All right, I'm back on Bill's side. I'm back on Bill's side.
You guys are talking about a coach on a 3-game losing streak. Now, I get it. 2 of those teams are really good. No shame in losing to Oklahoma or Alabama.
3 of those teams are really good. LSU was on a down year, but they were defending national champions, and it was in Death Valley.
They were not a good team last year. Let's be very clear about that. And again,
they were playing better with Max Johnson, trending upwards.
And that game was at Florida last year. It wasn't in Baton Rouge. Right.
Okay.
Don't let facts get in the way of a good argument.
I believe me, I will not.
If you're talking about Dan Mullen on game day, I think it's a much different conversation than Dan Mullen, the head Florida football coach. At Florida, of all places, I think we realized how quickly it can go off the rails, Urban Meyer. And it takes more than just an offensive mind or a football coach, Jim McElwain. It takes a guy that has to have some upper level administrative skills. Dan Mullen hadn't shown me that. He's shown me that he's a really good football coach. You can get Mississippi State to number 1. There's no doubt about that. On the field, calling plays, scheming up an offense, scoring points. He's that guy. What he hadn't shown is the ability to sustain a championship level program. Several of you weighing in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. 803-404-6100. Ted says, Mullen's incredibly underrated by this show. Of course, Florida's farther away from a national championship than not. The difference between Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and the rest is huge. On no planet would I take Kirby Smart over Dan Mullen. And that's three.
Kirby Smart is Will Muschamp with better players.
Or is he Nick Saban, just slightly lower? A guy that almost beat Nick Saban for a national championship.
No, you know why? You know why he's not Nick Saban? Because he never played Justin Fields. He was loyal to a fault to Jake Fromm, just like Will Muschamp has always been his quarterback. Nick Saban made the switch at halftime and won a national championship because he put it into a Tagovailoa. Kirby Smart would never do that.
But no. When did Nick Saban do that? How old was he?
Was Nick Saban?
55? 60? How old was Nick Saban by the time he figured out that you can make a move like that? He had built up a ton of cachet and had championships.
He's almost 70, and didn't that happen 4 or 5 years ago?
You're right. So he's 65 years old, right? I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I was going to say, was he?
What, Kirby Smart is, what, mid-40s, maybe late 40s right now? You're not
like he would be putting in the number 1 quarterback in the country, or co-number 1.
That had done nothing at that point.
No, but then he lost him, and it's almost now bigger.
Now he just got one of the most talented guys that's a Southern Cal transfer that looks like he's going to throw for 1 billion yards. That's my point about Kirby Smart, is his ability to keep rolling in these dudes. Yesterday's news, Eric Gilbert, tight end from LSU, the defensive back from Clemson, Arian Kittredge. Tremendous talent-wise. He just keeps stacking them up, man. He stacks up talent a lot more like Nick Saban than Will Muschamp.
Do we downgrade Kirby Smart just because he lost at home to Will Muschamp? Is just because of that alone, you can't have him in the top 5, right? Like that alone, that right there, he outdumbed Will Muschamp in a game where both guys seemingly did not want to win the game. Both head coaches did not want to win the game.
Did not want to have their offenses put up any kind of yards at all, being defensive guys. I think we see Kirby Smart differently than anybody else from the Columbia, South Carolina perspective, for sure. I think Jimbo Fisher, even from a national perspective, gets probably more credit, maybe because we talked about the just how he decimated the Florida State program and left it kind of tattered there and everything that they're doing to get out of it. But the job he's done at Texas A&M, got to give him credit for. Again, can Dan Mullen continue to stack talent on talent and keep things under control at Florida? I don't have confidence that he can, and that's why I don't think he deserves to be anywhere close to the top 5. He definitely deserves to be 10-ish, 9, like 24/7 Sports. I'm good with that. You got to convince me that you can get that thing headed in a championship direction, and I'm still not convinced of that at Florida, man. Again, second best win last year. I don't see one. They beat Georgia. That was a good win. Besides that, what did they do last year? You end the year on a 3-game losing streak, and you get a $1.5 million raise after getting your program in NCAA probation? Amazing. Clearly, great PR guy, great salesman. We'll continue to yell about it. Love to hear more of your college football thoughts. 803-404-6100. If you would like to join the show, you can call or text. Oh, our favorite 86-year-old caller. Been waiting very patiently to get in on the show. We'll do that next, too. Well, you're going to get yelled at by Gamecock Larry. Join the festivities. It's the early game. It's 175 game.
Whew, all this college football discussion got me a little fired up, got me excited. Kind of like when you see that new payment that you might have after you refinance with the mortgage guru. That's right. Interest rates are low. Housing market is hot. It's still a golden opportunity. And as excited as you might get, or we might get, about talking about top coaches in the country yelling at each other, you might be that excited when you find out just how much you can save when you refinance with Jacob Crowder of First Palmetto Bank. Matter of fact, so many people are doing it right now. Jacob had to bring in a little bit of help. Brian Kovar joining the team to help others as well. Don't wait around. Give him a phone call today, 803-719-1005. You can email Jacob, the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER, at firstpalmetto.com. Jacob and Brian are helping people refinance right now and save $200, $300, $400 a month. That right there alone will get you excited. Probably buy you tickets to one of these big football games we're talking about. So don't wait around. Give the mortgage guru a call. 803-719-1005. He's the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank.
This is a classic summer conversation yelling about college football coaches. Love it.
That's right. That's what we do during the summer.
Yeah, we'll virtually hug it out. Don't worry, Anthony. Attaboy Allen. He's going to be grizzled, too. Going to love it.
Yeah, he's going to really not be happy with Tim.
He's gonna. What SEC coaches does he like besides
None?
None.
Remember, as soon as you leave, even if you're a great athlete, as soon as you leave South Carolina, he has nothing to do with you anymore.
There's one he gives credit to. I think he's going to give credit to Kirby.
No, he hates Kirby.
But that's because it's Georgia. I thought he like respects Kirby.
No.
There is no respect from Gamecock Larry unless you're a Gamecock.
Yeah, that's the only way. And again, once you graduate, everything you just did is obsolete and doesn't matter anymore. You're no longer a Gamecock.
That was Missouri, D.C., where he lost his mind.
Yeah.
You got it, Sonny. This is what we do. Glad this came up organically this morning.
How did we get to this?
Extension. Or raise.
Troy, what kind of list is this, man? What are you doing? Dave Clawson is the fourth best college football coach out there. Troy, you should work for a website. That will get some clicks right there. That is a classic clicky list. When you have to put
what school
to identify coaches,
just to make sure everyone knows who you're talking about.
You're just going clickbait. Unbelievable. Bill's Pat Fitzgerald. What are you doing, Bill?
I don't hate Pat Fitzgerald. I don't hate Pat Fitzgerald.
Pat Fitzgerald.
Unbelievable.
I would like Brian.
Oh, I'm trying to save it for the show. It's difficult to do when the show is also on the internet during the breaks. My old mindset of not talking during commercials doesn't work so much. quite the facial reaction to that. I'm guessing text message, Bill.
Yeah. I'm not gonna.
Good call. That's why I try not to look at my phone during the show.
No. I was trying to do math real quick and subtract 48 from 18.
Oh, we'll
Get a negative number.
in on this discussion. Marty Simpson's supposed to pop in here real quick. I guess he's got a gig coming up.
Oh, I know someone that's not going to be happy.
I was thinking the exact. I was like, that is not the direction. That's great.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I'm unplugging the phone now.
You know who we're talking about, though.
No, I don't. I'm guessing it's an employee at 107.5 The Game.
No. I said I know a certain someone that's going to not be happy we're promoting a comedy gig.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
Yeah.
This is a relatively legit one.
You're gonna get us all phone calls.
Good.
Jen, how is it down there? Is it pretty foggy outside?
No,
Really?
just kind of overcast.
How old was this Helio guy?
Elio, he's 40, 41, 43?
Yeah, I saw an article about Tom Brady, and Phil Mickelson. The old guys are having their day, so I didn't know how old he was.
Yeah, he actually said that after the race. You know, the old guys still going strong. That was fun to be a part of, for sure.
June 13th, Northside Christian Academy.
All right, there's about almost heading back from the break.
Okay, can you let me know if Marty calls there in the private chat, like usual? We'll start off with Gamecock Larry here.
Fantastic. You get a good beating in your
You might
ear.
want to make sure Gamecock Larry's awake. Make sure he didn't doze off.
Good call.
You did leave him on for a while. He's gonna be good.
Just go to him and hear snoring. I missed in the next break. I don't know what happened with Meade. I didn't get in time that we were his fourth favorite show. He needs to be on Heath's show.
I said he was listening yesterday to Heath, so I was just.
I did hear that about the.
All right, guys are up.
Final half hour for our program here, but you don't have to just listen from 6 to 9 or noon to 7 here on 107.5 The Game when we are local to give us your hot takes. That hot take hotline up and rolling 24/7, 803-978-6654, where you can call in at any time of day or night, weekday, weekend, and give your hot take hotline. It's sponsored, or give your hot take on the hot take hotline. Sponsored by Twin Peaks for the men who never settle. Go see them down in the Vista at 600 Gervais Street. One of our favorites on the Hot Take Hotline is Gamecock Larry. Fortunately, right now, we don't have to go to the Hot Take Hotline to get his recorded.
We get him live and in person, and I'm guessing all fired up this morning on the Love Chevy phone lines. Gamecock Larry, how the heck are you, sir?
I'm doing okay. I got you down pat, Tim. Call, please put on hold at 2 minutes to 6. Lay your phone down, put your radio in your ear. Then you check your sugar, take your shot, pop your pill, fix your breakfast. Then you pick your phone back up and listen to Tim. And I guess all of you talk about 2 hours and, good Lord, 2 hours and a half. That's all right. That's all I got to do. Remember, I spent 20 years in the Army, and waiting was instilled in me. I can wait you out, buddy. I'm just cutting the food here. But let me talk about this. Somebody called in yesterday saying the Gamecocks don't deserve to host. Well, you must be staying home. You must be a Clemson fan. Number 2, Good Hog, I got your message early this morning. I got your message. Your Gilbert Indians won the first game, but remember, you always got to win the second one. Number 3, Dr. Bulldog McMillan out of the VA. Your Bulldogs are staying home. Dr. Gamecock Macon, your Gamecocks are going on. I don't know how far we're going to go. I ain't going to make no prediction, but I will say, I think we're going to Omaha. Let me see, that's about all I got to say. I'm just, I got kind of hung up here and been waiting this long, and I can't remember that. I got some of it written down, but I'm going to write some more stuff down. I'm going to call the hotline tonight. No, I'm not. I'm going to call Tim in the morning. Go Gamecock.
Gamecock Larry, ladies and gentlemen.
Salty.
Good to hear him this morning. All fired up. I love it. I was going to keep him going there and ask him where Dan Mullen's on his list, but I decided not.
Can you imagine if somebody introduces Gamecock Larry to group text messages where he can just
fire it off
go through the group text message and just take out, or just fire out those text messages in a group text?
Hope on the YouTube live stream. Gamecock Larry doesn't get any better. He is that guy, a lot like a lot of coaches holding the grudges out there, a lot of athletes as well. Gamecock Larry needs to go into the Sports Radio Caller Hall of Fame, Mark says on the YouTube live stream. That at any point during the day, if anybody says anything, that sticks. I feel like it goes in the notebook, and it's going to get commented on the next day. Thanks for keeping it straight, Gamecock Larry. So there are game day coaches and program managers, program CEOs. That's how I break college football coaches down to. You're one or the other. The best ones are really good at both, right? But these are the two main things you got to be as a college football coach. You're, the Bill Parcells old football cliche, right? If you're going to have me cook the meal, let me shop for the groceries. That's the great thing about college football from a control standpoint, from a football coach standpoint. You don't have to fight your GM or your owner about getting guys. It's you. You control your roster. So, Patrick, your excuse for Dan Mullen not having as much talent or whatever, to me, that goes out the window. It's a lot like Les Miles didn't get enough credit from my perspective, for getting all those really good players at LSU. He always got ripped for not doing enough with them. To me, college football fans try to have it both ways, and you can't. So some of these texts in here about your best coaches in the country are, I think, misguided, because I get it. Teddy D hits us up and says, I'd put Lane Kiffin and Hugh Freeze in the top 5. You're just talking about play callers? I'm with you. But clearly, Lane Kiffin and Hugh Freeze have shown multiple times that their ability to guide a big-time college football program there's serious errors in judgment. And that's where Dan Mullen, surprisingly, I'm a Dan Mullen fan, or was going into last year for sure. I was the first one to call Bill out and say, the Florida program is not in the right direction. What are you talking about, dude? But what we saw last year and the finish that they displayed, 3 straight losses, the one to LSU with the shoe throwing thing is the classic example. Now, they played Alabama pretty well in the SEC championship game. Bill, you're pointing out they were losing 35-17 at half, I think is appropriate. It was a 6-point final tally. I don't think the game was quite that close as the final score. But they played them better than anybody else. You got to give them credit for that, no doubt about it. Getting smoked by Oklahoma in a bowl game where a bunch of your players decided to opt out. The head coach deserves some of that responsibility. I'm not putting all that on Dan Mullen here in 2021. That's just kind of where college football is. But 8-4 was the record. And what happened with the Missouri game and what happened with an NCAA violation, that goes on Dan Mullen's track record, man. He's responsible for that. And to give him a $1.5 million raise, extend the contract 3 years, to me, that was Scott Strickland basically pushing all his chips in with Dan Mullen. And from what I saw last year, I don't know how wise that was, Bill. That's all I'm saying.
I've always thought with Dan Mullen that he will have Florida at 9 or 10 wins each and every year. He'll lose a game that he shouldn't. He'll make some SEC championships, but I don't know if he ever gets back to national title contender status. That's probably the one area that I disagree with Patrick on, just from last year. Florida was a very good football team. They defensively were pathetic, and that's on Todd Grantham. But then your head coach has got to make a move in the offseason, and he elected not to do that. If we were having this conversation 4 years ago when Mullen was at Mississippi State, I was probably the one banging the drum then that I thought 4 years ago when you looked around the league at the coaches that Mullen was maybe the second best coach in the league. Since then, Jimbo Fisher's been added. Kirby Smart has been at Georgia. Lane Kiffin's come in at Mississippi. I would ask you, would Lane Kiffin be having the same type of success at Florida that Dan Mullen is? Maybe not. I don't know. I think Dan Mullen as Patrick said, is a quarterback guru. I think he'll do something good with Emory Jones. I think that the projection that Patrick, you and I read is a little absurd. We read it a while back, right around draft time, of Emory Jones being a top 10 pick next year. But I do think that if you look at his track record, I expect Emory Jones to be ready to go and to be a quality quarterback for Florida next year. But I think you take all that into account, plus kind of you want to call it personality? I don't know what you want to call it with Dan Mullen this year and what you saw. He's a good coach, but I'll ask you again, if you start doing this, could Brian Kelly, could Matt Campbell, could Pat Fitzgerald, James Franklin have the same type of success at Florida that Dan Mullen is and do the exact same thing? Yeah, I think they could, and I think they might actually be able to do it a little bit better.
All right, Patrick, where are you at right now?
I just think so. I understand. I don't think Dan Mullen. I'm giving way more credit to what he can do as an X's and O's guy. Like, that's just what I value more. That's why I put Lincoln Riley at number 3.
So how's Ryan Day in there instead of Mike Leach? You talking about
Mike Leach is
an X's and O's guy?
Mike Leach because Mike Leach is not a good X's and O's guy. I thought he was. And then last year, I was embarrassed forever supporting him because he's the most stubborn human being and made me so mad to watch him because all he did was throw the ball 9 out of 10 times and teams would drop 8 guys in coverage and he would just have his quarterback throw picks left and right because he wouldn't adjust, and it was infuriating. He won that first game against LSU because LSU wasn't ready for it. Don't know why they weren't ready for it, but just continued to throw his quarterbacks out to dry, chuck the ball against 8-man coverages game after game after game, and it did nothing.
Okay,
Wouldn't run the football against a completely empty box, and that was it for me.
How about Lane Kiffin?
He's up there.
Okay.
I like Lane Kiffin. I also like Steve Sarkisian. So if I was calling my shot early, I would be buying stock in Texas and Steve Sarkisian.
Ooh,
but
I think that's another great example of play callers versus head coaches.
Yeah, it's close up here at the top. But I think, like, if you're counting, Dan Mullen's coaching is the same as, I guess, Kirby Smart's recruiting, even though Georgia's as easy of a school to recruit as you're going to find. And I just have the coaching on-field X's and O's part of it outweighing that for, like, the Dan versus Kirby debate.
See, I don't think you do. Look at number 2 on your list.
Yeah, but Dabo's winning national championships.
Right.
So he's got a little bit of it.
But he's not doing it with his X's and O's. He's doing it as the head coach, managing all that.
And he's been able to retain the best assistant in college football for however long Brent Venables has been there. So something to that. I don't know. You just have to put it'd just be ridiculous to not put Saban and Dabo 1 and 2.
No, I agree. I agree completely, but that's kind of my point. And Saban, we probably don't give him enough credit for his X's and O's acumen on the defensive side especially. But in college football, that is certainly not the end-all be-all. And I think it's interesting, your list. Lincoln Riley is the only other guy up there known as an offensive guy, right? I guess is Luke.
Ryan Day is an offensive guy.
Ryan Day
he's been a quarterback coach in the NFL. I think he's pretty sharp.
Okay. Yeah. But his sample size is so small right now at Ohio State, difficult to get a good handle on, I think, compared to some of these other guys. It's a fascinating year. The next 3-year run, I think, is going to be is going to tell us a story on Dan Mullen, because it's going to be completely his program and on his watch. And I feel like there is a lot to manage. There's always been a lot to manage at Florida since the Steve Spurrier days. And Spurrier has done the best job of managing that, I think. We'd all agree after knowing the full Urban Meyer story.
But you've heard, like, Spurrier left Florida because the fans didn't think winning 10 games was enough.
Mm-hmm.
He said it wasn't enjoyable. He'd win 10 games. He'd win the SEC championship, but they didn't play for the national championship. The fans were upset. He'd go on the booster tour, and fans would be asking questions. And Spurrier was, hey, look, we just won 10 or 11 games. That's a really good season. You know, Urban Meyer, who stresses himself out probably just picking out a breakfast bar in the morning, really broke down at Florida there late in his career. And we saw all that weird stuff happen with health and issues and going to the hospital and retiring and unretiring. That's a pressure cooker of a job. And I'm not sure you didn't see Dan Mullen crack a little bit this year. I don't know if that's actually Dan Mullen. I for all we know, Dan Mullen's this wacky, zany guy that wanted to dress up as Darth Vader on Halloween evening, and then he got fired. Maybe that's Dan Mullen, or maybe the pressure of coaching at Florida got to him. And if that's the case, that's where I wonder about running a program.
If Florida was in the ACC last year, we would all be talking about what a weak schedule they played. They played one ranked team in the regular season. Two ranked teams, sorry. They beat one ranked team in Georgia. They lost to number 21 Texas A&M at the time, and that was it.
Okay, but saying number 21 at the time when they ended the season at number 5 is a little disingenuous. No,
no, it's not disingenuous. It's the fact.
But they weren't the number 21 team in the country. We can go back and revise it all we want to, but like they were a top 5 team.
They finished number 20. I mean, they were 21. They finished, number 5, no doubt. But just
at
like
the time, they were actually the 21st best team in the country.
Right. Well, just like Georgia wasn't the 5th best team in the country when Florida beat them.
No, but what did they end the season at? 8, something like that.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
You just tell me the second best win that Florida had last year, and you're telling me it's Ole Miss, and you're going to give your coach 3 more years and $1.5 million for that at Florida?
Well, I don't think they needed to give him a raise. I'm not really arguing that.
Florida and Dan Mullen. Wow, going to be interesting to keep an eye on for sure. And I just think even at the quarterback position this year, especially without having the security blanket of Kyle Pitts that they had, I thought Kyle Trask was tremendous. What he gave that program, I wasn't sure that they were going to be a winning program until he stepped in there. And we saw him do it in Columbia, and we mentioned how vitally pivotal that game was, with Kyle Trask stepping up and Columbia in position to win that day, where they're running all over Florida. And then the penalty calls and the whole thing, how things could have been wildly different for Will Muschamp and Dan Mullen. To me, what I think this conversation about Dan Mullen has revealed about our listeners, about everybody weighing in today, almost everyone 100% against Kirby Smart being a good coach. That's what I figured out today.
That's true. I'll say one other thing about Dan Mullen, because we talked about changing quarterbacks, right? And this was my big argument 2 years ago on Dan Mullen, is I didn't think I thought Felipe Franks would be the anchor that sunk him at Florida, because I didn't think he'd get a lot of time. And if not for Felipe Franks getting injured against Kentucky, because remember, it's not like Dan Mullen went, oh, Kyle Trask is better than Felipe Franks.
Right.
Felipe Franks broke his foot against Kentucky, and they were down, I think, 9 at the time. It might have been 7, but they were down, and it looked like they were going to lose that game. And if it's not for Felipe Franks getting injured, I'm not sure Florida has the 2019 season they have. And then you might have still had Felipe Franks at quarterback last year at Florida. That's the one other thing there, because we talk about making that change. Dan Mullen didn't do it on his own. His hand was forced into putting Kyle Trask out there, and obviously it worked out well over 2019 and 2020.
Fun college football discussion this morning. 803-404-6100. If you'd like to get in a final word, you can call or text that number. The YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitter live video stream flowing now. Just got comments in from Damon talking about Josh Heupel will make a push in the SEC East. Hopefully Shane Beamer brings us back as well, talking about South Carolina. Jim B says also Dan Mullen is a punk. And Troy just says, sounds like Florida did the same thing USC did after Muschamp won 9 games in 2017. He's not the first one to say that, Troy, this morning about the contract situation with Dan Mullen. You're listening to the early game.
Nobody
here.
think that I like Dan Mullen.
You do seem to like Dan Mullen. Let the record show.
Dan Mullen. I don't want it to get twisted that I like him as a person.
Man crush.
I think he's a weirdo, but he's good at coaching football.
Another T-shirt. It's 100.75 the game.
It's a new year.
They're hungry.
A new attitude.
I want guys that want to be here, not just going out there to hire some guy that has.
Oh, conversation getting a little heated. Might have to turn the air conditioner up this morning as we wrap up the show. And to do that, I need to make sure it's working. You need to make sure your air conditioner is working. If you need something fixed, now is the time to call AAA Heating and Air. They'll offer you 0% financing, no money down, and offer you a $1,500 rebate if there's something wrong and they have to replace your unit. On top of all that, a 15-year parts and warranty guarantee. That's taking care of you and your family. And we've all been around these incredibly fun Columbia summers. You better make sure that air conditioner is working. So whether you need a new one or you need your current one fixed, don't wait until it's hot in your house, the air conditioner's broke, and you've got the whole family staring at you like you made the big mistake. Call AAA Heating and Air today. 803-677-1500. You've heard me talk about them. I did this back in April. Billy came out, checked over my unit, made sure everything was okay. But in case something had been wrong, I knew with everything AAA Heating and Air offers, I would be taken care of. Me and the family, the little kids, they would be comfortable during the summer. Don't wait around. That summer heat is approaching. It's approaching quickly. 803-677-1500. Roy and Dana Finley will make sure that your family's happy this summer. Give AAA Heating and Air a call today and tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
So tomorrow we got to do the maybe a list of coaches that you do like, top 5 guys that you like, not who you think the top 5 are. That makes sense. I feel like Bill did that a little bit with Pat Fitzgerald.
No, I would have Pat Fitzgerald.
Did that with Dave Clawson.
Not a single one of those guys would be on my list.
I think the question would be, who do you want, if we're talking good coaches, who are the top 5 guys you want running your program starting this year? Pat Fitzgerald would be in my top 5. That's a good coach.
If I was a Big Ten team, he would be in mine.
I think Pat Fitzgerald is a lot like Dino Babers.
How is that?
You give them a bunch of credit when they win, and then you ignore when they lose. Now, he hasn't lost to the epic level of Babers in Syracuse the last couple of years. Yeah, what's the answer here? Is it Cincinnati right now?
Which one am I looking at?
One I just popped up.
The best college football program, you would say?
Outside of Power 5. Central Florida?
Yeah, I would go Cincinnati. I think Luke Fickell's.
If Luke Fickell wasn't there, though, what would it be? If Luke Fickell
it's not, I mean, I wouldn't say. I'd say when Scott Frost was there, it was.
Yeah, but now Gus Malzahn's there, and they were still good the last couple of years. Will Cincinnati be at that same level when Luke Fickell leaves?
Doesn't he have his quarterback? He's got Rencher. Who does I forget? They've got their quarterback back No, or do they have a transfer in?
No, they both have their quarterbacks back. They're both returning quarterbacks.
I'm guessing they don't play each other.
So is anybody else in the conversation besides Cincinnati and Central Florida? Boise State?
Memphis would be the other one just because they've been pretty stellar for a while, but Memphis does, Central Florida does play at Cincinnati Saturday, October 16th.
Nice. No, I don't think Houston's been that good ever the last couple of years. King on that, basically.
Houston's got Holgerson, but you're right, they hadn't. Yeah, Memphis was 7-3 last year, lost to Tulane, Cincinnati, and SMU.
I think Paul Chris is a very good coach, and there's just limitations with that Wisconsin job, and he coaches them exactly how they need to be coached. And
Jeez, I didn't realize this. I say Memphis. They went Justin Fuente to Mike Norvell. Can you name the current Memphis head football coach?
Nope.
Probably not. No. Where'd he come from?
What I'm looking at. He must have been promoted. Is the only thing I can think of.
Can have a little over a minute when he come back.
Yeah, hired from within. Served as deputy head coach and offensive line coach under Norvell. Ryan Silverfield. Norvell's first season at Florida State was last year, right? I mean, that's a rough way to start, but that was just.
Head it back in.
Well-rounded program this morning. College football recruiting and yesterday's big day for Gamecock football and others. Transfers within the SEC. Gamecock basketball transfer out in 7th Woods.
45.
NCAA regional preview with Gamecock baseball pitching coach Skylar Meade. And then we yelled at each other about college football coaches in Dan Mullen in Florida. That was fun.
Well, we're getting there. June 2nd. We still got, I don't know where the countdown is today. 95, I guess, 94, somewhere in that area. So, but we're working our way there. 94.
We did
all right.
Best college football coaches today. Maybe tomorrow we go with the ones we actually like the most. Because Patrick, how many of your top 5 are on your favorite?
Oh, a big old 0. And at least 2 of them are my least favorite.
But maybe we'll do most likable, least likable list tomorrow. That'll be fun. I think Kirby Smart might be on the least likable list by today's list or today's conversation. Thanks for being a part of it here on the early. Yeah, good call. I think TCU that way too.
I think we all do. Just because they and Boise State were the 2 big non-power 5s there. And Boise State's still sitting out there.
Now you can't steal big plays one and then act like you're going outside the box. Oh, you do as well, DC. Thanks, man. That was a fun one today. I like how those happen sometimes, just out of the blue.
Just evolve. How did we get on this again?
Because we got a
what?
Oh, you just brought up the Mullen contract extension and
organically, the best way these things happen.
That's right. That's why we never have a pre-show meeting.
Overrated. All right, see you guys on the live stream in the morning.